the Majority Report, and they were telling me what the situation is with YouTube, and we wanted to update you as to why we still need your support on our Patreon page. And that's because some of you are seeing ads in front of our YouTube videos, and it's true. Some of them have come back. As you know, back in March now, I guess, or April, our ad placement was completely wiped out. We had basically 10% of our views were getting ads, whereas it used to be in March, in February, and January, closer to 65 to 75% of our views were getting ads. Well, some of those ads have come back, and it's true of some other channels as well, but not nearly as many as we had before. And on top of that, the type of ads that we're getting have a much lower CPM. So in other words, we're getting less ads on our videos, and the ads we are getting, we're getting less money for. And that's why we're continuing our Patreon account. We don't know if this is the new normal. And frankly, YouTube is not inclined to tell us. We're not the biggest channel. I don't even know if the biggest channels are being told as to what the new normal is, but this appears to be it. So where we got $1 3 months ago, we're now getting about 40 cents. That's better than getting a dime, but we are still needing your support. So you can head over to our Patreon channel, or maybe you're at our Patreon page rather now, but either way, give a couple of bucks a month, and that would really help us. Thanks for your support. Really appreciate it.
Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, June 30th, 2017. My name is Sam Seder. This is the four-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. It's Casual Friday, folks, but things are about to get real. Today we have in studio Cliff Schecter. And not just Cliff Schecter. The entire Schecter clan is here. Also on the program today, you may know him as Teddy from Bob's Burgers, or you may know him as Assy McGee from the cartoon Assy McGee. Larry Murphy, voiceover maestro, and also deeply committed Donald Trump hater. Also on the program, speaking of Donald Trump, he calls for repeal, then replace if the Senate can't pass their bill, leaving Paul Ryan's kneecaps a bloody mess. And regarding those Republican Medicaid cuts, wait 10 years, because you ain't seen nothing yet. Trump's assault on voting rights begins with Chris Kobach sending an ominous letter. Wall Street Journal reports longtime anti-Clinton GOP operative sought those so-called missing Hillary Clinton emails from Russian hackers. And Trump reportedly used a National Enquirer story to attempt to blackmail Mika and Joe. Yes. It's a true story. And the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, if you're into them, says sarin was in fact used in the Syrian attack. Not clear by whom. Meanwhile, good news, bad news. Labor Department to argue that they can control the overtime threshold. The bad news is they want to make it lower. Republican states threaten to sue over the Trump administration allowing DACA to go forward. And NASA denies that it's running a child slave colony on the planet of Mars. I'll wait until Jimmy Dore puts out a video before I decide on that one. And Keystone Pipeline apparently can no longer find oil producers to actually use their pipeline. Sorry about that. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is another Friday. And just another crazy week in the Donald Trump era. We will be talking about healthcare, of course, because that's the big story. But when Cliff gets here, we will also be talking about, I'm not a particular fan of the Morning Joe television program, and I'm not a particular fan of anybody who appears on that program. I mean, I like Sam Stein. He's not a bad guy. But it is, I think, a relevant story that there was an attempt to blackmail reporters. And it's also even that much more, or I should say news anchors. But it's even that more stunning that it didn't work in this case. But we will get to all that and more in just a moment. Before we do, well, and you know what? I want to bring Cliff in here for this sound. So usually we have Cliff Schecter on the telephone, and usually he can hear his theme song. But today we have the immense pleasure of playing Cliff Schecter's theme song for his sons.
Cliff Schecter, Libertas LLC. New media, public relations, and strategy. You want any of these services, you know who you gotta see. Cliff Schecter, Libertas LLC.com.
Yeah, yes, ladies and gentlemen, Cliff Schecter in the house. Cliff, welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you in studio.
It's always a pleasure to be here. First of all, thank you. It is a part of my contract, as you know, with the Majority Report that I show up twice a year.
That's right.
In person, so that I'm not in my pajamas at least those 2 times during your show.
Of course.
And yeah, with the whole family. I always bring my posse with me. And I want to say that I appreciate you playing the song here for my kids, because I'm under the impression lately, as my younger son Luke brought up the fact that I brought something up that I did when I was a kid, and he said, back when you weren't old and wrinkled. And I thought...
I get that from my children.
And I thought to myself, you know, maybe they need something else to think I might be slightly less uncool than I am.
Guys...
You're not even that wrinkled or anything. What are you talking about?
Well, guys, I mean, let me ask you a
Thank you,
question.
Kelly.
Do you have friends at school whose dads have their own theme song? Yeah, probably not. That's right. In fact, I have my own radio show. I don't have a theme song. Just your dad does. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
For an old wrinkled guy, that's as good as it gets.
Well, that's what happens when you get old and wrinkled. You get your own theme song. So you got that to look forward to. And also, sadly, your children may have a diminished social safety net and social insurance to look forward to.
That's true. Diminished expectations of their country.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. Growing up, you guys do remember that Donald Trump wasn't the only president that you guys remember, right? Yeah? You remember the last president? Good.
Luckily
good.
for Luke, this is his first white president.
Yeah, there you go. Poor Saul is his only consciousness of a president is he does know how to say, like, people miss Obama, don't they? But he doesn't know who he was, I don't think.
Well, I will say quickly, Dougie was born literally right before the 2006 midterms, so I consider that a sign.
All right. Well, he's just looking at you like he doesn't know.
He's
All right.
like,
Well,
what
let's-
are you talking about, Dad?
All right. Well, Cliff. All right. Let's get into this because the big news, of course, this week was that Mitch McConnell, who has a special place in your family, I should say.
It's sort of icky.
Your better half is
For
here,
everyone
and-
listening who doesn't know, my better half is here, and I actually met my wonderful wife, Ann, working against Mitch McConnell in
That's
2002.
right.
One of many to fail to beat him, and so you can kind of hold us responsible in a way for everything he's doing now.
I was just going to say, though, it
Our
must
candidate
be
was terrible, though. Let me say that. But go ahead.
a little bit disturbing when your family origin story has to center around Mitch McConnell. But
It's more than a little. It's
right.
well,
okay, so I mean, help me out here. Mitch McConnell is, there was some theory that maybe Mitch McConnell was trying to bag the whole thing, just clear the decks of it. I think if that was the case, he would have held a vote knowing that it would have failed.
Right.
He seemed to have the perfect cover, right? I got people on the right. I got people on the so-called
the
left
of the Republican Party,
Yeah,
which is
I mean,
slightly
just
to
so-
the left
yes.
of Mussolini.
The
Yeah.
pretend moderates and the really, I guess, in many respects, the pretend conservatives are both against me. They're both going to vote against it. He could have cleared the decks. He could have moved on to the next thing. He clearly wants to pass this.
Yeah.
Here's the question I have for you with your understanding of Mitch McConnell. My theory is that Rand Paul will never be able to get a conservative enough bill for him to vote for because he knows how many people in Kentucky actually rely on Obamacare. So he gets to have his cake and eat it too.
That's right.
I vote against it. I'm not held responsible for getting rid of all these people's health insurance, but I vote against it because I'm so conservatively principled.
So I've thought that definitely from the beginning with a couple conservatives. The other one, Mike Lee may just actually be that cruel and far to the right. And Ted Cruz, don't get me wrong, is completely cruel and a terrible human being in many other ways. But I think in Cruz's case, remember, he's got Beto O'Rourke running against him. Texas is a state that Hillary Clinton improved upon Obama's total. She lost it by about 8 points. And that Ted Cruz uniquely hated by pretty much, I think if you've met him, you hate him, no matter what your politics are. So he could be vulnerable in a state like Texas. They're doing everything they can to suppress every darn vote there. So, I mean, obviously, it gets a little tougher. But I think I could see him pulling the same maneuver as Rand Paul and saying, I can't do it from the right, but really, hopefully, privately, he's like, okay, I don't have to take away people's health insurance.
Or I don't have to vote. I don't have to take this vote. Now, he apparently has floated a plan that would essentially allow in each state insurance companies to sell any type of insurance they want as long as they have one Obamacare compliant policy that's available. But of course, what that turns out to be, it turns out to be one of those the equivalent of a high risk pool. The costs will go through the roof. The non-compliant ones will be really cheap because they're not covering anything.
Right.
And only people who are sick or anticipate needing a genuine health insurance will go into that one Obamacare plan.
Exact opposite of what the term insurance means.
Right.
I mean, that's what these guys never, explain. Of course, they try to mix people up, and maybe they don't even understand. Remember when Paul Ryan said, well, some people shouldn't have to pay for other people that are younger or older, and that's actually what insurance is.
Spreading the risk.
Yeah, it's why you get life insurance and car insurance. These are definitions of these things.
So tell me what Mitch McConnell's angle is. I mean, is it enough for him that he feels like I don't have to worry about your son's getting super bored with this conversation?
Listen, if there's anything
Dougie,
more representative of my son than that,
Doug,
I can't think of it.
Can you believe?
Can we do that as a sound
Can you
drop?
even imagine what it's like to have to live with this every day? This is what my kids go through at home. This is what dinner looks like. So
and
at
mommy,
least for you, it's
and mommy, both mommy.
Exactly.
He lives with me. He knows, like, you bring up Marco Rubio, he probably knows his top 3 policy positions. Believe me, it's tough living.
Could we record that as a sound drop?
Yes,
please.
Dougie's yawning. Dougie's yawning has to be part of the show in the future.
Yes, it really does.
Dougie, it's all positive. It's
every
all love,
day,
kid.
my daughter says, Dad, I get it.
Hashtag
All right,
Dougie
so-
yawns for me.
Here's what I think's going on.
What's up with Mitch McConnell?
Here's what I think's going on. The Koch brothers and some of the other right-wing corporate types who jumped out of the fray with Trump are back in because in the end, Trump hasn't done any of the stuff that's populist that he said he was going to do. He's been, so they want this health care plan gone. McConnell is, as we know, lives to service. His whole career is just about them and people like them. So I think he very much wants this to pass, even if they have to roll back capital gains cuts to a certain degree, so they can't cut the whole, was it 3.8% they added on for Obamacare? So that's why he's holding out. And the question will really be, and what's interesting, and I was talking actually about this with Ann earlier, is Shelley Moore Capito, Rob Portman, and those who are from, who's from my state of Ohio, who are from the states that are having the opioid crisis is at its worst. McConnell saved a couple, $100 billion pot there, no pun intended, to put towards opioid abuse.
Right.
Of course, I saw some estimates somewhere where that was like 14% or some amount of what's needed. It doesn't do anything, but it gives him the fig leaf to say, we held out, we're moderate. See, he's taking on our issue now, and suddenly you see Cassidy and Capito and Portman and a few of the others who have held off say, well, this is a serious problem in our rural areas and we need this money.
Yes.
So we're signing on for this.
Yes. And here, speaking of Shelley Moore Capito, here she is on Morning Joe. Morning Joe makes up all our clips today. They were pretty busy, I guess. But here's Shelley Moore Capito, and the disingenuousness of her response about Medicaid to me is, this is where this is how they get away with this, right? It could, because like you say, it's a fig leaf. And and here she is basically stitching together, or I guess the apt metaphor is growing a fig leaf and cultivating it and then finally trimming it and then wearing it. Here it is.
Joining us now from Washington, one of the Republicans opposing the current version of the Senate health care bill, Senator Shelley Moore Capito of West Virginia. Thank you very much for being on the show this morning.
Shelley,
my pleasure. Thank you.
It's always great talking to you. We had somebody on, and others have suggested there can be a little bit of tweaking of this bill, and maybe pull people like yourself and Rob Portman over. But how do you ever? And I say this as a conservative, but how do you ever get there? Representing a state that would be devastated by these cuts to Medicaid.
Well, that's been my source of concern, Joe. I'm very concerned about the Medicaid portion and what it would do to a state like mine. We have the largest per capita population that's in the Medicaid program. It is a wonderful safety net for so many of our West Virginians. At the same time, I think reform is needed in the program to make the dollars go farther and more efficiently. I think we would, health professionals and everybody would agree with that.
We can stop it right there. First of all, incidentally, folks, if you want to see the results of a pre-interview, you just saw it.
Yeah.
Okay? In fact, that's probably why Shelley Moore Capito was on there.
Everybody who does these types of TV shows, which Sam does regularly, and I do to a certain degree, and Michael does, you get these questions at a time.
Well,
because they want somebody who's going to say that.
Well, I think in this instance, it actually went the other direction, where she said, we're available so that she can address a Medicaid. Because the fact is that you will not find healthcare experts that agree with the idea that we can make these dollars go further.
What does that mean?
Well, what it means is as if there's a tremendous amount of waste in the system. And in fact, if anything, there's a tremendous lack of ability to make these dollars be accepted in other places.
But they want to establish
because
that
it is so stingy
Right.
in the way that they pay.
They want to establish that in addition to what we were saying about opioids as the moderate position. So if she can come on here and say that, and then you've got, Joe Scarborough, moderate Republican, even though he refers to himself as a conservative, saying...
Depends on which day it is.
Right, of course it does. That's why I use the quotes. It's not real. But if he'll then say, oh, well, if you keep some of the Medicaid funds in there, so they cut back a little bit on those cuts, right? And they say, but we can stretch these dollars further.
What does that
And here's
mean?
some opioid money. Then it's, oh, look, they came to the table. They're moderating. And, and then these guys jump en masse.
I mean, Michael raises a good question. What does it mean to stretch Medicaid dollars further? And what it means is not like we'll get more health care out of it. It's just that we'll have less dollars for more people.
Well, it's also like, let's say...
Which means that you're going to get less health care,
right.
period.
It's sort of like, let's say you have to get both of the legs amputated. They'll sort of say, you're only really using one of those legs, right?
Right.
It's that kind of thing.
And we should say that the repeal and replace bill, it only is scored by the CBO 10 years out, because that's really as far as you can really reliably or even somewhat reliably determine what the implications of this stuff is going to be. But by 2036, according to the CBO, the government will be spending 35% less on Medicaid than if current laws remained in place. Now, this is the thing that people have to understand about Medicaid, and it's also true of Medicare. It's also true of Social Security, and it's also true of food stamps at these points. These are, Social Security and Medicare are agent, but these other ones are economic stabilizers. So if more people fall below the poverty line, they become eligible. So it's a function of what's going on in the economy at any given point. And it's also a function of how many people there are, because the percentages may stay the same. But if you keep having babies at a faster rate than people are dying, then...
The amazing thing, though, also, and this gets factored into all of this, which they don't want to say, which is if more people die, then we need less money to take care of them.
That is actually a point of savings, at least in the House bill, that Social Security saves some money. But on this, with the Medicaid... 35% less. That means there's going to be a 35% deficit, even based upon the meager spending on Medicaid that we do now relative to the need.
Right.
There's going to be even the 35% bigger deficit. So you're going to have, and the idea that 35% will not capture children or elderly or people in nursing homes.
Veterans Medicaid's what pays for people in nursing
Yeah.
homes. So, I mean, that's ridiculous.
It's absolutely crazy. All right, well, let's...
so just be ready for that. I'd say the one other thing to be ready for, too, is if McConnell can convince the conservatives to leave alone the attack on Planned Parenthood. Now, obviously, this is something that I feel very strongly about in general, my involvement with the organization. But that may also be used as sort of the fig leaf. You attack initially, And then Susan Collins and Murkowski,
Yep.
the two who are pro-choice, will say, "Oh, okay, well now they're leaving alone Planned Parenthood. Even if they're cutting huge amounts of Medicaid, we can jump back on."
Right. These people just want to be able to say, "I got something out of this."
That's right.
Here is my in Maine, I think it'll be some money for some rural hospitals.
Great point,
But
Mike.
here's the trophy I got from
Right.
the competition, and I bring it home, and everybody looks at this shiny thing, and meanwhile this thing passes. I still am of the belief that this will pass. That they will get it, that the tax cuts uber alles for these people, and that's it. They will they want these tax cuts. It may not be exactly in the form it is now, but it is going to wreak havoc upon, I think, healthcare.
My guess is they're going to cut
Insurance.
back somewhat on the Medicaid cuts, and they're going to throw some money, as you said, rural hospitals, opioid, whatever they can. So in the end, the capital gains cut may not be as big. But I do think they're going to try to find a way to pass it still with it, because if they can cut some of that capital gains, that's still a lot more money for people.
Can I ask a quick question about that? Do you think that that's why the Senate version is in some ways to the right of the House version, and sort of like anticipating this process, so where they ameliorate it will still end up being
think
well to
there
the
is
right?
no doubt in my
they didn't go
mind-
with like, let's make it a more moderate bill to begin with.
I mean,
McConnell's a much better
McConnell
strategist
understands
than Brian.
that the thing that Barack Obama never did, which is you start in a place where because what he did is the classic sort of like vacuum sales thing, right?
Yeah.
You go door to door selling vacuums, and the thing that they teach you is find the objection or whatever it is, define it, right? And so he rolls this thing out with a core constituents of 13, maybe 15 people in the Senate, and then they release it, and everybody pokes up their hand and basically waves a flag. This is what I need to sign on. This is what I need.
Right.
And he just you can the fact that we know at this point clearly can say, like, it's going to take X number of dollars for Shelley Moore Capito means how clear it is for him, and also how performative it is.
Yep.
It is just so that they can basically say, I want this, and then take it and walk away with it. So I think this thing is going to pass. I think, if anything, the cuts to Medicaid are just going to be further backloaded. And
That's true. They may push them back even further. Yeah.
and the opioid funding is not going to come through Medicaid, because Medicaid is like I say, expands and contracts,
Right.
or they may block grant it going forward to the states, but they're going to create other programs that are going to sunset, that are much easier to have sunset 5-10 years out than they would cutting Medicaid, Medicaid provision.
And they'll be useless. I mean, there'll be some money in there, and maybe a few people will be helped, but there'll be nothing close to what's needed to get to help people truly who are suffering right now.
There was a figure yesterday. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it like basically showing that opioid deaths were going to be one of the primary healthcare crises in the country going forward over the next 10 years.
No, I mean, it's terrible. And again, I don't think we even yet know, with deregulation and with some of the other things we allowed pharmaceutical companies to do, they created a market.
Did you see that Ezra Klein piece the other day, where it was basically the title of it was something to the effect of, like, conservatives are showing that liberal caricatures of them were true.
Ezra.
It's like the intellectual version of like losing your virginity at 70.
Yeah, it's also a misunderstanding of the word caricature. Because it should read, it turns out what I thought was a liberal caricature turns out to be the reality. Right? Like, it's not a liberal caricature if it's actually accurate.
So it turns out that a lot of us who were saying these exact things, not based upon any preconceived notions, not based upon the fact that I like bashing people, but based upon the fact that I looked at this terrible group of people, what they were saying and doing, and then made a judgment, as you do about everything in life. A car is coming, I shouldn't cross the street. Conservatives are saying that people should be allowed to die and not have health care. Maybe they're terrible people.
To subsidize.
Right.
But we were all being hysterical and
Well, and still, that's built into the headline,
still a
right?
liberal
Because it's a caricature. the liberal fantasy what just happened to be a broken clock is right twice a day. You know, it's like it's pretty stunning. It gives him an opportunity. But I mean, this is, you know, I don't know. It's at least it's coming into relief. But let's talk a little bit more. Let's turn to this because this is important. And you know, we're in an era right now where the media is our media situation is so messed up.
That's a technical term, right?
Yes. TMZ is about to buy Time magazine. Have you heard that report?
I have not.
Did you hear that? TMZ is attempting to buy Time
That
magazine.
can't be good for anybody.
That TMZ guy, that Harvey, whatever his Levin is like a good friend of Trump's. Sinclair Media, as you know, now has the FCC has basically paved the way.
They now reach, I think, 70%. Is it of the markets in the country?
Yes, but it only counts towards a 39% cap because they're UHF stations, which of course are meaningless now because everybody's on cable. But and I mean, so we have this real problem, and there was a pre-existing problem too, And here is sort of like, I don't know, here is, let's talk about what happened with Morning Joe and Mika, and because this is pretty stunning. Let's start with the first story, which is, and this is sort of the first order story. Apparently, it sort of exploded today where in the wake of Donald Trump tweeting that Mika and Joe were desperately trying to get invited to his New Year's party, but he wouldn't let them in because Mika's face was bleeding from a facelift. I mean, I can't... I can't believe... Well, it's just so insane. It's just so insane.
And
he's the president.
First of all, yes, the president is actually tweeting this out because he watched something on Morning Joe.
No, he heard, supposedly, because he doesn't watch.
Well, no, I was going to say, that's the thing.
Don't watch it anymore. Don't watch it anymore. Live, fake news.
That's what I was going to say. That's the thing I love the most is every time he attacks one of these things, I hear CNN's saying this about me. Ratings are terrible. I don't watch anymore. And you know, he was just watching. I mean, it's hilarious. But that's, so the tweet in itself of I wasn't watching it was funny enough. Then he's attacking her, and it's like, dude, do you see Ivanka sitting on one side of you and Melania sitting on the other side of you? I'm going to go ahead and say they've had some work done.
I see Ivanka sitting on both sides of me because she's a total babe.
Well, it's also...
Ivanka, she's up, she's down, she's all over.
It's
that car over there looks like Ivanka.
It really is like just it's misogynist and it's just moronic.
But I would say also mentally ill in a certain sense.
For a president to be doing that in and of itself is ludicrous. But again, what he said was disgusting. The fact that all these other reasons we brought up are ridiculous. This is still important because I can't stand this. You know, when people at CNN now are like, "Hey, he's attacking us," or you know, Joe and Mika, you built this.
Okay, we'll get there in a second because first, and let's be clear. Having immigration, having ICE arrest 40% more and tearing apart families. I think Atrios tweeted something to this effect. Far more real, legitimate suffering.
Oh, of course.
But with that said,
the people may have health care taken away from them. Sure.
With that said, this story about blackmail seems to me to be, at the very least, inappropriate. Also, I think blackmail is illegal. And I don't know if money, but here is Joe and Mika copping to the fact that, well, first off, there was going to be a story apparently a couple of months ago in April by the National Enquirer that they were having an affair. There were whispers about this for a long time. But apparently there was going to be a National Enquirer story. And they have since come out and did they get married?
I think they're engaged.
Or they're engaged now. Ugh. But
exactly.
Here is how they retell the story. And this is, even if you don't have any sympathy for these two people. Which I do not.
Nor do I. But
the dynamic,
this is different
because there's no reason to believe they're just doing this with Joe and Mika.
Oh, yeah.
Uncomfortable talking. I mean, I think we have to talk about it now because it explains the relationship and his really strange obsession with this show, and in particular, this really disturbing obsession with Mika. We got a call that, hey, the National Enquirer is going to run a negative story against you guys, and it was Donald is friends with the president is friends with the guy that runs the National Enquirer, and they said if you call the president up and you apologize for your coverage, then he will pick up the phone and basically spike the story. I had, I will just say, 3 people at the very top of the administration calling me. And the response was like, I was like, are you kidding me? I don't know what they have. Run a story? I'm not going to do it. The calls kept coming and kept coming, and they were like, call. You need call. Please call. So, come on, Joe, just pick up the phone and call him. It's blackmail.
And let me explain what they were threatening. They were calling my children. They were calling close friends.
You're talking about the National Enquirer. Yeah.
And they were pinning the story on my ex-husband, who would absolutely never do that. So I knew immediately it was a lie and that they had nothing. And these calls persisted for quite some time, and then Joe had the conversations that he had with the White House where they said, oh, this could go away.
So I just want to be very clear here.
Wow.
The National Enquirer is harassing your children, your daughters, who are teenagers.
Yeah. And it's,
and then Joe in turn is getting calls from the White House.
By the way, they're also, I was at Mika's house for a few minutes and came out, and there was a guy in a van that was staked out there watching. It was clear that he was from a tabloid.
It was 2 in the morning.
He started asking questions.
My shirt was off.
After all this started happening, that's when we started getting calls from the White House.
Now, let's just, I want to just sort of, disaggregate 2 things here. One is that, look, celebrity rag like these, National Enquirer, they're going to do this. And that's one issue, right?
Yeah.
They do this for, I don't know, Brangelina or all
It
that
sells
type of stuff.
newspapers.
Yes,
That's what they
of
do.
course. And so that is more of a different type of problem. The idea that, and I guess maybe their implication is that, look, Trump knew that they were dating.
Yep.
Says to the Enquirer, "Here's the story. Go find it." Then it comes back and it says, I can spike this. I mean, this is blackmail.
Yep. So he's blackmailing a media source. And again, as you said, the key thing is, it doesn't matter Joe and Mika. He's probably done this to numerous others. We know he's threatened reporters. We know that people who've worked for him have physically assaulted reporters. Lewandowski, for example.
Well, he did stuff like, here's Lindsey Graham's cell phone, and which was indicative of, here's his cell phone number.
Right.
I mean, it's indicative of the same
Tur
thing.
having to be, escorted out because of an event, because she was being threatened by people because he was blaming her. I mean, this is his total. This is his stance towards the press. You're either sycophantic state press or you're being threatened. I mean,
Now, and here's the other thing. Okay. This is very problematic because it could have happened to other people. It's very problematic as much as, like, I don't have a tremendous amount of investment in what Mika and Joe are telling us every day, trying to be, respectful
you
here.
guys haven't even heard the story about when they called Sam's family.
But
wait
a second. But
Sam's becoming a Methodist.
Why don't we know who those top Trump administration officials were who called him?
That's true.
Because they were the ones who were delivering the blackmail message.
I don't want to do the calls anymore. Please
well,
stop forcing me.
I'm sorry. They're doing it again.
Who do you think it is?
That's a great point.
Top
Top
officials in the Trump administration.
If they're going to come forward with this story and they're telling the story, then tell the damn story.
Excuse me.
Who
are you protecting and why now? Like what's going on here? You can't come out and say we were blackmailed by this administration, but we're still going to protect those people who are blackmailing us because we want to maintain the relationship.
That's right.
This is,
in a way, that's this show to a T.
I
Right.
mean,
I mean, it really is.
You know,
It's why I
this
can't.
it's about access for them, and that is just as disturbing.
Yeah.
They're saying basically like, you know, we're going to tell the story about blackmail if you really try and embarrass us.
Right.
Right? Well, wait a second. Why didn't we hear this before? It's going to take a tweet where he talks about her face
I know.
to tell us on this. I mean, this seems to me
It's
to
ridiculous.
be an important story. And if we're going to take it seriously now, we should have taken it seriously
Months ago, whenever it happened.
When it happened, you know, weeks ago.
And tell us who these guys are.
Tell us who the people
Tell us
are.
who the thugs are, who he's having call, because maybe he's having them call other people and do the same thing.
I mean,
I can't help you. I don't even watch that show.
I'd
All
say
right.
probably.
So, and here is.
You know you do, Michael.
So we got one more clip from Morning Joe because we're seeing so much of what the problem is with so much of society, of our politics. Here's Joe and Mika talking with Donnie Deutsch on the same program today about how disillusioned they are with what Donald Trump has become.
And I know, Donnie, you've known him for a long time. The guy that's in the White House now is not the guy we knew 2 years ago.
Not
the guy
even
that's in the White House
close.
now is not even close, because the Donald Trump we knew for the better part of 10, 12 years was always in on the joke.
Yeah.
He'd go, here's Trump water, and then it'd wink at you.
Yeah.
Right? And here's this. Hey, look at it. And it'd always wink, kind of like, they love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, they love that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they just come here and they love seeing my name. It makes them feel like they're part of something. He was always in on the joke. Without getting into great detail, I will just say that somebody at the top of his campaign last summer said to me, we're all really worried about his emotional state.
Yeah.
But this
He's
is our.
changed-
All right, wait a second. Pause it. Pause it. I want you to go back. I want to just take like the first part here. In on the joke. Let me translate what that means.
Yeah, please do.
In on the con. Knew when he was selling people Trump water that it was just crap water with his label on it. Knew when he was selling people Trump University, he was just scamming people out of tens of thousands of
And
dollars.
knew every position he was offering when he was running as a candidate was complete crap too, which is Joe Scarborough's job, if he knows that, to tell us that.
In on the joke.
Right.
But the second part of what he's about to say now is also crucial because, look, 2 years ago, we can all remember what was happening 2 years ago, right? He was on there just making some type of racist diatribe about something, whatever it was. But a year ago, last summer, 2 years ago was when he came down the escalator and said Mexicans
from
are
the
rapists.
heavens.
That
Right.
was 2 years ago.
Were the Mexicans in on the joke?
Yeah, I guess. But the joke is
He was winking the whole time. We get it.
But now we're hearing from Joe that last summer he's getting a report that Donald Trump is mentally unstable. Completely Not only do we get. That's what reporters do, right? On background,
Theoretically.
I've heard
Yeah.
from a very reliable source that this guy running for president is mentally unstable.
But they were still in on the joke then, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, and it was still very funny. But not only do we not hear that specific thing, you look at their coverage over the course of that, and it was alternately fawning and
was
occasionally tisking. But go back and let's listen to the second part of it.
They just come here and they love seeing my name. It makes them feel like they're part of something. He was always in on the joke.
I'm ripping him off.
Without getting into great detail, I will just say that somebody at the top of his campaign last summer said to me, we're all really worried about his emotional state.
Yeah.
But this is our analysis.
He's changed. No, this isn't our analysis. I'm telling you what
mine.
somebody said.
Yeah.
This guy is
Pause
not
it for
even
1
the same
second.
person.
Mika just realized, holy cow, we were sitting on this story for a year.
I know.
She's like, wait a second. We probably and Joe just bludgeons for. He just no, it wasn't us. That was what somebody told us that we didn't reveal to the public.
You see what she just did? She tried to save this
And
guy
that's
from
the dynamic between the two of them all the time because she's a lot smarter than he is, and he goes forward and says something idiotic like that.
She tries to say, this was just our opinion. He goes, no, it wasn't. I was getting a report.
But then
I was doing actually what a reporter does.
Right.
We just didn't tell the story.
A, he's not bright, and B, he you know, she's always the person he bullies over and just basically tells to shut up. So
I mean,
what's different?
All right, continue.
Our
He's
analysis.
changed. No, this isn't our analysis. I'm telling you what
mine.
somebody said.
Yeah.
This guy is
You
not
just
even the
gave up
same
the
person
ghost.
he was a year ago.
Yeah,
I know, she looks like she's about to cry. I mean, but I've seen her do that before too. She just looks down and goes, yeah. I mean, she just sort of pipes in because that's the only way she can say anything on that show.
Let me just wonder, like,
face.
like,
He did it.
The thing that
I
makes
wonder,
it,
like, does she walk off the set and they walk? I mean, I know where the set is, and they walk out and they walk into the green room, and she just looks at him and goes, "Are you a moron?"
Yeah, I hope so.
No.
Do you realize you just told the world that we were sitting on the story from an incredibly reliable source that this man who was running for president was mentally unstable?
And by the way, moron, maybe not a great idea to say that you were over my house in the previous description, too.
You were just there for a minute?
Just for a minute.
Just there for a couple
Why
minutes.
did you just see the guy going out and not going in if you were there for just a minute? Did you see him pull up?
Yeah, sometimes it takes 2 or 3, but generally I'm out of there.
This is why I want to practice before we go on air.
no, I don't think that she has. I think that their engagement is really upsetting to me because of their relationship on air. I mean, he is
Abusive.
Abusive.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I mean, he's verbally abusive, as he is to everybody
He's
else.
absolutely
but he's
verbally
abusive
abusive.
to her to the point, and the physical kind of sort of glower. You know, he sort of lords over her, and then she goes and she looks down, and
the closer toward it being out there that their interrelationship, the less pushback she's given. So,
I mean, so
and
tempted to make a joke, which I really should not make, about Joe Scarborough's past.
Well, look, I mean, I think, listen,
hitting
the
their
point
head
is,
on a coffee
no,
table?
I think, listen, the point is,
he's also been married 3 times, and he still likes to say, no, but let me say this, as a guy who just sits there and constantly says, but I'm a conservative, and I'm like, well, that's not what you guys were selling in '94.
exactly.
But it's okay now for him, and he doesn't have to apologize at all, because that's completely, I mean,
I'm not going to judge their relationships, and she's a grown woman. If she wants to be in a relationship like that, just like Melania, I'm sure she finds some benefit in it. It's not one that
she wants to be with an abusive guy. I mean, that's her choice. She wants to bleed from the face.
But more important than their engagement is the fact that they were sitting on this story, which they just admitted, and they were sitting on 2 stories. One, anchors are being blackmailed. 2, we had credible reports that this guy was mentally unsound. Those are 2 very big, important stories that they are just trotting out now as part of their Twitter war.
That's just our analysis. No, it's not. You guys told me.
But you know what's important? I mean,
we had documents. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you were on the call.
The meta to all this, though, is really important, too. It's because it's what it says about this show. And a lot of the rest of the media, I mean, you've seen how many people, and many of whom have been some of the nighttime progressive anchors here and there, whatever, have been in and out of that station. And yet Joe Scarborough has always been safe there. There are times his ratings were in the toilet and nobody's watching the show. But it's the insiders who get together and hang out like they're hanging out at a bar somewhere. He doesn't see himself as a journalist because he's not one. He doesn't feel any compunction to have to report a story like that or do anything because Donald Trump is in on the joke and he's in on the joke and they're buddies and they're, there's no thought of what his responsibility is as a broadcaster. It's never crossed his mind.
Contemplate the idea that Woodward and Bernstein just got into a fight with a Nixon aide, and then they go, "Oh, incidentally, we found out that you broke into the DNC headquarters."
That was totally unfair. The failing Washington Post.
That's perfect. That's what this is.
Pretty stunning that they trot this out only when there's a Twitter war. And so what's going to happen next? Donald Trump's going to go out and start I've got some nudie pics of
I'll kill the story on Bernstein's liposuction.
And then they go oh, incidentally, we saw him paying off Felix Seder to go and do steal the emails.
Seriously, who knows?
Know absolutely everything. Right. They're like, wait a second. Donald Trump was actually personally loading kilos on one of his family's ship, jets. We didn't want to say that before because we were at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, that's just our opinion.
That's
No,
just
it's not. We got pictures.
We saw it.
Generally, I'm not in favor, of course, as you know, as a card-carrying progressive, but I think this may be a time to rendition Joe Scarborough somewhere.
Let's
find out what he knows.
Let's go back 2 years ago through our time machine, which is actually called a recorded video. And from what Donald Trump, what kind of man Donald Trump was 2 years ago. Back when he was in on the joke that he was conning people.
Right.
Look at, I'm selling water. Can you believe this? The stuff these people will buy. Wait till they buy this. This is 2 years ago, where Donald Trump, the serial assaulter of women, was on the program hosted by the serial assaulter of women. I get them confused. They're side by side.
At the station that was run at that time by the serial assaulter of women. Yeah.
That's why they wear. You'll notice in this clip, Bill O'Reilly wears a striped blue tie, and Trump wears a solid blue tie, so you can tell them apart. All right.
This isn't a video.
Oh, it's not a video? Okay. The headline
it's a nice still shot, though.
Headline is O'Reilly gives Donald Trump a platform to continue calling Latin American immigrants rapists and criminals. I won't take back my comments because it's totally accurate.
They also each wear
Wink,
a little
wink.
pin.
Yeah, there
Instead
you
of the
go.
American flag pin, they wear a Mike Tyson one on there.
Unbelievable. I mean,
Mike
this
Tyson,
is.
he's still black, Cliff.
I mean, I wonder, well, no, I don't wonder. I was going to say, I wonder if, the head of NBC News will say, in the future, we would like our journalists to report major stories in real time, not as as retribution for a Twitter war.
Right. We would hope that
MSNBC style guide.
We'd hope that our journalists' faces are not being called bleeding.
Memo.
They might also.
You remember when they suspended Keith Olbermann?
Yes.
For contributing
donation, yeah.
to a local candidate somewhere.
I actually think it was Gabby Giffords
Oh, was it?
It was, but it was before that whole thing.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll send a memo saying just a reminder. If you stumble on some of the biggest stories, perhaps that you could tell, a president blackmailing the press with secret information.
He treats women horribly. Well, that's just our analysis. No, we saw it, Mar-a-Lago. Remember that woman that he grabbed?
Or that he's insane. Right. Share it with our audience, or at least let's raise it at an editorial meeting.
That's right. These are relevant factors.
You just feed it to somebody else. Even.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay. It's nothing bad.
That's why they've hired Hugh Hewitt.
Right.
That's why they've hired Hugh Hewitt, so that Joe Scarborough can have that stuff reported. They can give it to him, and he can announce it on the weekends. I mean, I just find that stunning, and
Hewitt has serious things to focus on, like taking away people's health care.
This show happened this morning, so I haven't seen any take that points that out. But it seems to me to be pretty glaring, right? Like, I remember when we were mad about Bob Woodward saving his big stories for his book and not printing it in the Post during the Bush administration. This, you're saving it just in case we need it for a Twitter war?
That's right.
I mean, seriously.
In case our friend blackmails us, we'll be prepared.
No! They hid the blackmail part. They didn't do it then either.
That's true. It's only when it came out on Twitter. Yeah.
I don't.
And that, folks,
yeah, all right,
is the state of your media today.
And Larry Murphy, hopefully he's listening, and we're going to be about 5 minutes late with you, Larry, 5 or 6 minutes, because I want to just talk about this Chris Kobach thing, because I know this is something that you're.
Yes.
And this is, this is a little scary. The chair of President Trump's Election Integrity Commission, Chris Kobach, who, incidentally, a judge
just hit him with, called him a fraud. He hit him with fines, didn't he?
$1,000 fine for, quote, presenting misleading arguments in a voting-related lawsuit.
It's hard to be surprised at all.
Only $1,000? You should be in charge of election integrity.
That's right. It could have been worse.
You have no idea how many fines I paid.
Obviously, the best example, you look at what these guys did in Wisconsin, where they took a state that generally was a left-leaning state, and I think you can go beyond. Some people have made an analysis about Hillary's run, but look at Russ Feingold and what happened there. And I'm telling you, one of the big reasons he lost that race is because the number of African-American votes in Milwaukee they suppressed, and in many other parts of that state. Yep. And they're taking that as a model, and they're trying to take, it's been terrible in Ohio, too. It's just Scott Walker has been so far up the Coke. My kids are here.
It seems like, okay, this is what they're doing. They have sent a letter requesting their full voter roll data, including name, address, date of birth, party affiliation, last four social security number digits, and voting history back to 2006 of potentially every voter in the state. Now, my understanding is this is largely public material if you go and pay for it, right? This is the voter files. Right?
You can get that in election, yeah.
And that parties have available to them.
So when you do direct mail, you do digital targeting, things like that. You can get this.
Kobach says that any documents that are submitted to the full commission will also be made available to the public. Terry McAuliffe said, I have no intention of honoring this request. They don't seem to have any obligation because this is just some commission.
But I think a lot of it's intimidation is what it's about. It's not just about getting the actual voting numbers and rolls. It's what they always do when they have people standing outside of polls. It's we know what you're doing.
All right, well, here is the thing. Okay, so it seems to me what they're doing is they're going to take all this information if they get it. They're going to put it in some big data file. They're going to say, look, this guy's registered in 2 different states. We have 15,000 examples out of the 140 million people registered to vote of people registered in 2 different states, half of which will be just people with the same names, right?
But they're very careful about differentiating that.
Well, this is what they did with that so-called cross-check.
Right.
And, there's some dispute as to the efficacy of that and how many votes were ultimately suppressed. But it certainly muddies the water. And if you want to just do it for a narrative, which is all this Election Integrity Commission wants to do, right, is to create a narrative that there's voter fraud.
Yeah.
This is the way you do it.
Sure.
This is the way we just slap my name on it. We sell it to the rubes. I'm in on the con.
Yeah.
I'm in on the joke.
The joke. Right. If they, I wish, I'm just like to think back if President Obama had done this exact thing, but he'd also added in. Also, can you also include which of your households own guns?
Right. I was going to say he grabbed everybody's guns.
That would have been fantastic.
We're just going to do a random sweep of all registered white voters in the country. Just random.
Yeah, exactly.
Just random.
Let's see who we got there.
I'm in on the joke.
So this is a problem because this is, I don't know what we can do about this except for counter the narrative going forward. And this is a classic Republican project. This is not a Donald Trump thing. This is a classic Republican
and the
project.
money, and again, because of the sort of the kind of disproportionate, let's call it warfare that they in the media that they can engage in. It'll be all over Fox. It'll be all over talk radio, and it'll force its way into mainstream media.
Wait, a classic Republican project? Can you guys go slow with Ezra?
Yeah,
he's just getting the healthcare bill
I can't
digested.
believe. I mean, I thought this whole thing
It's
with the firing of the attorney generals was just a sort of an aberration.
I know. I thought that whole Iraq thing, it was a caricature.
Don't worry. As long as they don't, as long as the Trump administration doesn't both blackmail somebody and get into a Twitter war with them, we won't know about it.
There'll be a time, sometime about a year.
You crossed the threshold. The blackmail, the being insane. Well, we'll let that slide.
And then a whole bunch of clips of Republican senators saying that it's really distracting that he blackmails and gets into Twitter wars because we need to be focused on kicking poor people off of health insurance to subsidize a top-end tax cut. Then I'll realize it isn't a caricature.
A year or two down the road, Ezra will be reporting and be like, so yeah, a few of my friends started having to wear yellow stars. Until then, I thought it was a caricature of a right-wing position. It turns out I was wrong.
No, 1930s Germany, Ezra. People are so hysterical about them. I mean, I disagree, but I think we can all have a civil debate for character. You know what? As I get sent to Auschwitz, I think maybe the character was right about him.
Sure. I'll stay on this side of the street. I know I can't shop in there.
Total
but
character.
It's okay.
Total character. I got completely thrown off because his mustache was so big.
That's right.
They always made out his mustache to be so big, so much bigger than the rest of his head. His head was tiny.
It's not my
his big
politics,
mustache.
but why can't we have a civil
classic
agreement?
thing at
I
the bar
close down my
mitzvahs
stall
where they
and move to this place. I
where
believe
they
they call
draw
it the
the
ghetto.
faces at the bar mitzvahs.
But
and
that's
the
all good.
mustache
They took
gets so
all of
big.
my family's possessions and I'm in the ghetto, and I'm starting to think the character might be true.
That's true. They asked for. I thought my gold teeth. Why do you need them?
When will he pivot, though, is really the next question. Labor time? Okay.
Well,
all right. We've all taken out our German accents. No,
Yes.
we're good.
Well, Cliffy, it was a pleasure to have you here. Guys, do you want to... You're not even... What? Dougie,
We've bored
what
my
are you
kids.
doing? What are you listening to? Are you watching a different show? Oh, you're watching our show? Oh, okay.
Dougie,
All right. I thought you were watching.
Is there a way Dougie
cartoon-
could Dougie just jump on Matt or Kelly's mic and just do that yawn?
Listen,
For future reference?
Hey, Sam.
No? Okay. Sorry.
Dougie's listening to the show. He's in on the joke.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're. You know what's going on.
Hey, you want to say something on air, kid?
Come on. Do you have an opinion? Oh, you could. I think you need to come up to the microphone to say that, bud.
Okay.
Here, why don't you go up? Do you want to? Why don't we say it? Why don't we say it on Kelly? Why don't we say it on Kelly's mic?
Here, you can go to Kelly's mic.
Kelly's mic.
Trump sucks.
I don't like putting the kids on.
Yeah, it's
on
all
video.
Oh, that's
All right.
a good point.
All right.
Do you guys have anything to say? Well,
What's the other one, though?
You want to say something?
yeah, say something, Luke.
Trump smells like celery.
They got that
Did
from.
you say
celery
Trump
okay,
smells
though?
like celery?
Yeah, they got that from Teen Titans. You ever see that show?
No.
Oh,
Celery
Is that
smells
what?
bad?
Is that the show?
yeah. Robin is on there, and all the other characters like Cyborg tell him he smells like celery. It's their thing.
That's interesting.
Yeah, well,
Celery.
The kids dig it.
You're
Luke,
the one
what
who
is
smells
your
like
feelings
celery.
about celery?
You're the one that smells
Are
like
you
celery.
pro celery or anti? What is it? Tastes bad. All right.
Too much
fair enough.
water in there and not enough.
Very
You're the
well.
one that smells like celery. You're the one that smells like celery.
You're gonna get it.
Is that a puppet joke there? Puppet.
Cliff,
Okay.
always a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming in. I guess we'll do this again next week.
We will.
Who knows? Maybe if we get enough slams on Joe and Mika's ratings, maybe we'll find out that Donald Trump is running. He's actually putting child slaves on Mars.
I would just be careful, Sam, because again, as I was saying earlier, it's funny when it happens to Joe, but when they start calling your family and trying to.
I don't think it's funny when it happens to Joe. That's why I think they should have
know.
reported it when it happened.
I'm not being serious. All right. Well, listen. Thank you for having
Insane.
me on, guys.
All right, thank
Been
you.
fun.
Here we go. Let me do a little applause to. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ready?
Thank you very much.
Big applause. Cliff as he exit the building. All right. Do we have a Jimmy Reefer Cake song? All right. Well, let's just play some music. I'll call Larry Murphy. What? I'll call Larry Murphy, and then we'll be right back in just a moment.
Tears are never ending.
We are back. Sam Seder on the Majority Report on the phone, ladies and gentlemen. The guy who's always on my phone, texting and whatnot. You may know him as Assy McGee from Assy McGee, or you may know him as Teddy, or about 5,000 other characters on Bob's Burgers. But I know him as the guy who played the opposite me in a small independent film, Fits and Turns. It's Larry Murphy. Hello, Larry.
Hello, Sam. Hello, Luke and Dougie. Hello, everybody.
Whoa, these guys. Did you hear that? All right. You just made their day. All right, Larry. Thank you.
Oh, you bet.
Did you hear that, guys? He used the Teddy voice and he said your names. Huh? You got to cut that out. We'll cut that out and we'll send that to you. Larry Murphy, how you doing, buddy? I'm a little concerned. I know we should say you're calling from the South Shore. You're up in Massachusetts right now in a bunker.
I am. I'm pretty close to the Cape.
In a bunker.
In a bunker. Yeah, a bunker that I've built since January.
So I met a guy I hadn't seen in years, a Massachusetts guy, who tells me that it was heartbreaking. He said he voted for Trump. He said he's very...
Is this Joe the plumber?
No.
Who'd you meet, Sam?
It's just a guy. Mike was his name, not Indy Mike. And he said, I don't like Trump. I find him disgusting, this and that. But his policies I like. I like the bombing of Afghanistan. I like
Wait, that's what he led with, the bombing of Afghanistan is what he liked?
Yeah. And the CEOs in the White House, he's had more CEOs in the White House than Barack Obama. And the other
I don't know how you'd know who he had in the White House because they don't keep a list of that anymore.
Well, they don't do that, but that's just housekeeping. And
exactly.
The regulations, whatever that meant. I couldn't. I almost fell over at that point. But
what part of Boston though? Where? I think it would matter.
Newton.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've heard some things that make me believe that some portion of Massachusetts voters, I mean, they have ideas about what it means to vote for him and what I mean.
Be more explicit,
a lot of bad
Larry.
ideas.
Be more explicit.
Yeah, there's a lot of conflation of information of what he represents, and also I do not think that right now that the majority of people, because if they're not on Twitter, they don't see that stuff in real time. I don't think that they get a true sense of him because it's only 15%, less, 8%. 8% of the U.S. is on Twitter. And so they're getting that news like kind of filtered through. It's not a record yet. Or it is a record, but it's not viewed as like,
Well, you live in Fox country in some respects, don't you? I mean,
yeah, in a way I do. Yeah.
I mean, tell us about it, because I just remember like the businesses that you drove by that would like have like a whole diorama of Hillary Clinton.
I showed you a picture of Hillary Clinton in a locker up in front of an actual privately owned company that did some sort of massive landscaping company where they owned, just a huge place, and they had it built up where they had Hillary Clinton inside of it was really on the way to where, driving off of where I am. Where I am is it's not as prevalent. You can't see it, but they're driving in that direction. So there are a lot of Trump signs. There were a lot of Trump signs, and then there was this diorama where Hillary Clinton was locked up, and they're still talking about Bill Clinton. There's still a lot of talk about.
Dude, she's a criminal, right?
Dude, there's two things I know about. One, you should lock her up, and two, the relief pitchers for the Sox aren't doing as well as they probably should this time of year. We just don't have that deep a bullpen. No, seriously, Sammy, we don't have that fucking deep a bullpen, and we should.
How many conversations do you have that a day now?
The president and whatnot.
How many conversations can I have where a guy is exactly that? There's two things I know.
Yeah. So what is driving you? Like I think I have gotten more text from you in the past six months than certainly in the 12 years that I knew you before then.
Because I think it's a daily offense. I mean, I don't know. I'm no different than anybody else. I think they just already turned off the news and tuned him out. I think a portion of people have literally started to tune him out. So he's, in that way, I think he's winning. Like I think it's successful. Is that people are no longer, you know what I mean? They're not, at least where I am in Massachusetts, people aren't talking about this on the daily. They're just not.
There was all that concern that it would become somewhat normalized, and it is. I think
it's normalized, but I don't think it's normalized in the way people, I think, is overload, and then people kind of shut down. So they don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear about it anymore, or there's less people who want to hear about it than there was. And I feel like when you get outside of New York City, when you get outside of Los Angeles, and you get out of those areas, that there's more people who, they're not checked in. They're not, they can be, I don't know, they can be tricked by suddenly he's using the word collude in reference to Bernie and the Democrats.
Right.
Colluding. I mean, when you start trying to hijack the words, that's trying to change people's idea of what we're talking about. And I think that happens a lot.
Now, you also, I remember during the whole losing of the aircraft carrier. I don't know if people remember that incident where they thought the aircraft carrier was streaming towards North Korea, and in fact it was going down to New Zealand. Just give me.
No, I think it was misrepresenting facts. Or at least my experience, I was in the Navy. I was in the Navy, and I was located basically there. I was stationed in Japan, and my thoughts were with those guys who are stationed there. And when you're there, that feels doesn't have to be wartime. I wasn't there during wartime. Everything feels acts of aggression. Everything feels like an act of aggression for anyone who's forward deployed in an area, even as small or minor as it might be. So the idea that Trump was basically adding fuel to the fire and creating this tension while those people are over there or even close to there was infuriating. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be a reasonable person in the service. I don't think that the other part is, at least when I was in, you didn't get the exposure to the news that you might get now because you didn't have internet.
Right.
And you had limited, basically, news service, which was kind of fed to you through the military. So you didn't really have a sense of what was going on in the world unless you were reading papers when you were essentially in port. But I'm sure that that's changed right now. But just during that whole time period when he was claiming naval ship movements, which I thought was insane, of where things are going, those aren't announcements that anyone makes. No one's saying where the Pacific Fleet is headed at any given time. They're not. It's not a tool, I don't think. And he was making claims that turned out to be completely false. Just like he made a claim the other day You saw that, right? Where he made a claim.
I make a lot of claims.
Oh no, he made a claim. You make a lot of claims. I make a lot of claims. I gotta make claims. I make more claims I've made more claims than anyone. Hillary, Obama. I make claims. Sam. The claim. No, he made a claim. He made a claim the other day that. What was it specifically about? Where the DOD didn't know what he was talking about. It was 11:30 at night, and.
It sounds about right.
Oh, what are you talking about the Syria thing?
Yes, and that he made a claim, and that basically they were like, we don't know where that's coming from.
I'll tell you something.
And that kind of stuff is, I don't even know what to make of that. Is that simple?
There was a story. That story was a Cy Hirsch story, right? There's a Cy Hirsch story that came out the other day that said the U.S. military and intelligence agencies claimed to Trump that there was no evidence or they did not believe there was a sarin gas attack. This is the Cy Hirsch story. And that Trump was just sort of freelancing. Today, the prohibition...
Wait, he was just freestyling on that? That's what that was?
That he saw the TV show. Now, this is, from April. But the story came out. But today...
an imminent sarin gas attack. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah,
That's
okay, yes.
An imminent sarin gas attack, and that was happening while he was embroiled in a Twitter attack. He mentions nothing about it, but it's a press release released at 11:30 at night, and there's no mention of it.
Psycho
right, okay,
Mika
that's
wants to
different,
do
right.
nothing
That
about
is
Syria.
the other day, and he tweeted that out, and then they used his tweet as the press release. That if you if you do another attack, I think that was.
Yes.
I really think that was about him going like, "Hey, did you see Wag the Dog? Did you see that movie?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I could just do it if I just tweet it out. We don't even have to
I didn't
bomb."
see it. It was edited pretty heavily on Fox, but I saw part of it. Saw a little bit of it. Saw some of it.
It is really
Saw a piece of it.
But isn't it hard to know now? Like, I mean, this story came out about the Wall Street Journal where there was an operative, and this guy, I can't remember his name now. His name escapes me, but he was the guy who paid the Arkansas State Troopers to come out and claim that, like, Bill Clinton fathered an African American illegitimate child.
Yeah, Duquan's my kid. What's your problem?
And and this guy was way back when, and he's just was a millionaire guy from Illinois who was apparently, because he was interviewed by the Wall Street Journal, was looking for Clinton emails. People who were in contact with him said that he would claim that he was involved with Michael Flynn, which is, when you're talking about September, I mean, that would be a weird claim to say, like, why would you say Flynn? Why wouldn't you say, I don't know, Bannon? If you're going to make it up, why would you say Flynn?
Right, exactly. Why is it Flynn? In other words, it's basically, a bagman who would be willing to do whatever.
Well, this is
wherever.
the guy who reportedly paid, Arkansas troopers. So he was just like the front guy who was, you need somebody to do something dirty, I'll do it. And he was going out and trolling around for online to IT people to see, like, can you find a group online that has done this? And he claimed that he thought he was speaking to at least two groups that were Russians, whatnot. I mean, it's.
What do you make right now of Manafort registering as a foreign agent?
Well, I mean, yeah, he's just
got to protect himself.
Yeah,
legally.
he's just pretending like I was never trying to hide it. It was a clerical oversight.
Yeah. Do you make that's him trying to hide it, or do you make that's the last stop if you've been cooperating possibly with the feds?
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea, to be honest with you. I mean, I think, look, I would bet money that there's a lot of financial, wrongdoing, money laundering.
No, I think that's actually the key to, that settled court case in New York.
The Felix Seder.
Yes, absolutely. He's tied into it. The Felix Seder, but that settled court case where they settle for pennies on what is essentially pennies on the dollar, and that right there, I think, is the key to the whole entire. That's
the New York Attorney General.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're
the
U.S.
New York Attorney General,
USAG,
and
the Southern District, after Barrara was gone, there was a settlement on that.
Yes, well, actually, he had placed in a guy named June, right? And they said that they would continue to pursue that, and then this 4 years of investigation ends with it being settled. And the
happens
in the and the companies involved basically say we see it as a win, and we paid pennies on the dollar for what we were supposed to be paying, what we paid for fines, and nothing is exposed and nothing is open for what was what
all
that entails.
records are
But it
sealed.
entailed
Right.
essentially, it's during, Trump's reign in New York, during, the real estate boom that he was part of in New York. And I don't know, I mean, that feels like the biggest connection to, like, financials. That would never have gone away if that, if it had played out the way it was supposed to.
So, Larry, give me a sense of your day, because Michael's sitting here going, like, how does he know all this stuff? And literally, like, I have to say, over the past week, you've been a little bit. I was a little bit worried about you.
Why?
Well, because I didn't hear from you. Like 6 times a day.
Yeah. Oh, that's really embarrassing, because I actually made a concerted effort to not be on have Wi-Fi. I made a conservative.
I was gonna
to be
off
and on the beach and away from any ability to read the news.
Oh, all right.
So I read in a limited amount in the morning, and then I don't.
Okay, because I was getting a little worried. I was going to call like emergency services just to check
why?
on
Do you think that I read? Do you think that I read more right now than? I mean, I do. I read deeply on those stories that I think that
you should talk to Andy Kindler and get him to take a Wi-Fi break, maybe.
Well, Kindler is not as in deep as
Kindler's got a different dynamic going on. This is like
right,
serious.
but he's mad.
Yeah, I like that though. That could be a new like a mass bro. Like it's all through Felix Seder, dude.
It's all through. Yeah. Why does it sound like that? No, I mean you got to search out this Felix Seder stuff to get to the bottom of it.
I know what a half-wit I sounded like when I speak about this stuff, because I sound like the opposite of what you'd get here, where I live.
I mean, no, I like his policies, especially when it comes to America First. You know what I mean? And also, beautiful coal. I've been saying that to my kids since they were little. Beautiful coal. Beautiful coal is kind of a thing that we say. Beautiful coal and pure, clean water.
Now you gotta get crystal clear water.
Crystal clear water. You're gonna love it. No, there's no fucking way that Pruitt is not gonna make sure that we have clear, clean, pure water.
That guy's from fucking Oklahoma and whatnot. How is he not going to care about that?
And I mean, that's fucking God's country out there. That guy, no, for real. That guy's from fucking God's country. Oklahoma? No, he fucking knows about that shit. He knows. He's never been in with the oil companies. I mean, he doesn't trade emails with them to such an extent that he did the exact same thing with Dow. That would not be something that he would do. That doesn't sound like Pruitt to me. Doesn't sound like Pruitt I know.
Larry can't help himself. Honestly, like when I get a text from you and I already know something, I'm like, phew. Yep. Like it's like I'm just like, wow, okay.
Oh, I don't know if that's true. I'd
say half the time.
I don't ever feel like I'm that you usually straighten me out on what I perceive. I usually have the kind of wrong angle on what the story is.
But there's a lot of times where I get a text from you. Like I'm just looking through the texts. Like here's Larry actually sent me on last week a copy of the Department of Justice release statement by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein on anonymous allegations.
What does that one read, though? What is that?
Oh, my God.
What does that one say right there?
Let's see. It says, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein today issued the following statement. Americans should exercise caution before accepting as true any stories attributed to anonymous officials, particularly when they do not identify the country, let alone the branch or agency or government with which the alleged sources supposedly are affiliated. Americans should be skeptical about anonymous allegations. The Department of Justice has a long-established policy to neither confirm nor deny such allegations. And then you write, huh?
Hey, Sam, did you hear how they're undermining the SALT treaty? Just everything. They're undermining this.
No, but seriously, guys, be honest. You don't think that our president's interested in saving us money by getting rid of NATO and destabilizing Europe? You're out of your mind.
I'm supposed to subsidize Angela Merkel, who can't manage her own waste and whatnot.
Dude, no, she's a fool.
Believe me, did you see
she's
her?
He would have
shaken his hand. He would have shaken her hand if she had put it out. Wouldn't smack it away or anything.
She had put it out.
Oh my God.
But also, any press release that you see, I'm always. That most recent one at 11:30. When you can't see Trump's fingerprints on it, isn't it better? Do you know what I mean? I just mean they read like Trump tweets.
Right. Well, now I think they're just putting his tweets in.
Tillerson.
I think he's just going like, put out a press release. Just get it from my tweet.
Pull it from my tweet. No, not that tweet. Different tweet. Everything is done. I'm usually done by 8 in the morning. Start at 6:30. Done by 8.
Matt and I was saying that we need to do.
Bothering me.
And obviously this will never happen because they're all his enablers. But what they should do is that was like 30 Rock where they sent Tracy Morgan to the moon and he thought he was going. They need to create a fake Twitter. And it's only likes and positive feedback.
They should have if they wanted to generate some capital, he should have a closed circuit Twitter that you have to pay to join.
Yes.
And he's playing to nobody. The numbers remain the same. He's playing to nobody unless you join. It's like pay-per-view.
There you
President.
go. Pay-per-view president.
So what is? I mean, are you focusing on one thing? That's the thing that sort of amazes me is that you seem to cover so much.
You're really painting a picture right here, Sam.
No, I mean I'm saying it. I'm saying it.
I'm reading the same news as you, aren't I?
Well, I know, but that's my point. Most people don't read the same amount of news as me because I do this professionally. You theoretically are doing something else.
Well, I'm waiting for something to feel like it's moving in the direction. I don't have a lot of confidence in any one thing being anything that. I don't think it will be tweets. I don't think anything's going to break the back of this.
Now, were you this engaged in politics before? Because I feel like
No, I wasn't that fun. I mean, do you mean before
Trump?
Yes, but not as engaged as I was at the beginning of this, when I was like, no, because I didn't see it as fundamentally. It feels a lot more dangerous. I feel like it feels a lot more dangerous. I feel like he feels a lot more dangerous. I mean, because I don't put him in the realm. I don't put him in the realm of a normal politician. I think his impulsiveness. It's I know that a lot of times you kind of give him credit for like distraction, but I'm starting not to buy into that at all.
Well, I
don't believe that he's distracting anybody. I believe that he's impulsive, and I believe that he can't control himself. And I don't believe that there's nothing that tells me that there's a filter between him and what he's saying.
Well, according
what he's thinking.
According to Morning Joe, apparently he's been trying to blackmail, and as of last summer, Morning Joe was getting very credible reports that the guy was emotionally insane.
Wait, he was trying. Am I getting it correct that he was trying to blackmail through the National Enquirer?
Yeah.
How's that work?
Well, Trump is good friends with the publisher, the National Enquirer,
and the Post.
Well,
correct. But why the? I guess what I'm saying is why the National Enquirer?
Well, because the National Enquirer is, the outlet for things like, are they having an affair? They were going to expose the affair between, or the relationship between Joe and Mika.
Yeah. Are they? Aren't they? Is now. Did she or did she not get a facelift? I need to know. I want to know.
Inquiring minds, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, that's why they call it the Inquirer.
That's why they. The point was that he's going to blackmail them, and then that's why they had to expose their relationship.
No.
And that he has text and emails to that effect.
The idea was that apparently, according to Joe Scarborough, he got calls from top administration officials. If you call Donald Trump and apologize
in the White House.
Yeah. If you call Donald Trump.
He mentioned his friends in the White House.
Well, he said top administration officials. I mean, I'm a little upset that like we didn't hear this story before the Twitter war made it necessary for them to report that media figures were getting blackmailed by the president. But apparently top administration officials called him and said, if you just call and apologize for your coverage, he'll kill the story.
Our president watches more cable news than a shut-in.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he watches more cable news than a shut-in. And and it's the whole entire thing that consumes him. And he golfs more than a retiree. That is an amazing thing. That is an amazing combination.
Yeah, it's welcome to America. So what are you going to do, Larry? Give me a sense, because I think to a certain extent you are indicative of a subset of the resistance, and perhaps a big subset where you've been activated by how not just like personally repellent Donald Trump is, but sort of dangerous he is. What's your stamina level at this point? You had to go to the beach for a couple of days, and I should say, when you say you go to the beach, you're going 10 minutes away, 5 minutes away.
Yeah, I drive on the beach. I have a Jeep. I drive on the beach.
You do?
Yeah.
Well, you live on the South Shore. I mean, down near the Cape.
No, I live down towards the Cape. So I drive.
Isn't that the South Shore?
I'm 15 minutes from being on a beach in the Cape.
Isn't the Cape the South Shore, like just above the Cape?
No. The South Shore is south of Boston.
Ah.
That's not really the South Shore.
Well, that's
totally
I
wrong.
got into a. That's the one place I ever got into a car accident. I was driving back from the Cape. I was going up Route 3. Is that Route 3, right?
That's Route 3.
So I'm driving up Route 3.
Because then if you're on the Cape,
I
you're
was on the
6.
Cape, dude.
Sam, don't worry.
I came across the bridge.
How you're driving. Okay, you're coming on 6 or you're on to 3 already? You go over the bridge?
I'm over the bridge. I'm on 3.
Okay.
I'm driving
All
up.
right.
It's a pelting rainstorm, right?
Okay.
I'm driving a Datsun SX.
You want to be careful on that stretch right there. There's troopers everywhere, Sam.
I'm driving a Datsun SX. I hydroplane. I realize like I got to go get gas, and it's raining so hard I can barely see. So I start to head over towards the exit. I hydroplane. I freaking skid right into the sign that delineates the exit from the non-exit, and I flatten my tire. Fortunately, I rolled down the exit, Sullivan Tire, right there.
What month is it? Wait, that was just all a product placement ad for Sullivan Tire?
Yeah.
Hey,
Yep.
Sam.
Are you serious?
Sam,
Yeah, if you use the coupon code MAJORITY at Sullivan Tire, you get 10% off.
Hey, Sam, do you think that he's undermining China's ability to negotiate with the North Koreans?
Do you think that? What do you? How do you feel about how that went today with Moon in South Korea?
Actually,
I had tweeted out that it turns out that the best thing to do is to translate Trump into Korean, and then it works. So I got to do.
But you see what he was saying to the press?
That's what I suggest.
He kept saying, he said something like, you guys need to back up. They're getting even more mean or something while he was meeting with the president.
What is your sense, the health care bill? You think it's going to pass?
No, I think that, I don't know that it's going to pass, but I know that it's going to be, everything, it will be delayed until well after. I mean, I think we'll still be talking about that in September.
I think you're wrong.
What, you think so?
Yep.
Why, what do you think?
I think it passes third week of
You think
June
it passes?
or July.
I don't know. The most recent thing that makes me think it's a possibility is the monies that they freed up that now you can say back to these states that where we're taking away all the federal funding and making you responsible for everything. Now you can return some of that money for the growing epidemic that is.
This guy knows everything.
Opioid epidemic. Yep.
Larry didn't even know what the majority report was. Like 12 months ago. I would see Larry consistently, back in the day when I would get some work on that show. Now I don't get any work on that show. What's the deal with that?
I think
Where's Hugo, Larry?
What?
Where's Hugo?
You're breaking up, Sam. You're breaking up. I have nothing to do with the decisions that get made on television programs.
Well, maybe you should step it up a
It's
little
like
bit.
12 months ago. I think that African fella is doing all right. And then we'll
you were
have
going in
to
the wrong
check.
direction, Sam. You were going in the wrong direction all the time. You should have been trying to. You should be trying to strengthen the character that is Harold. You play Harold.
Now I'm Harold more than
Show.
Hugo.
You're Harold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I do when I go on. You
Yeah.
play.
No, that's a relationship.
You play.
That
What's her face, right?
I play Edith. You play Harold. We're quite a pair.
Yeah.
Harold. Get him out of here.
There you go. Larry, thanks so much, buddy.
Hey, thank you. This was fun.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All right, take care. Bye. Bye, guys.
All right, let's get to the Jimmy Reefer Cake
Jesus
song.
Christ.
That's the way we do it. Massachusetts. We don't get all,
I know.
sentimental.
No, I'm just saying that guy is like, he's, Murphy's
I'm telling you,
encyclopedic.
I was worried the last week. I mean, I don't think I noticed it because I was involved in this medical situation, but I was worried. I thought something happened to him, but then I got a couple more texts.
The Jimmy Reefer Cake song is called Credibility, Hypocrisy.
Credibility, hypocrisy. Credibility, hypocrisy? That's the name of the song?
Catchy.
Wait a second. Let me go into the email.
The full email was titled The Credibility, Hypocrisy Blues.
Okay, that makes more sense. All right, let's hear that.
People are saying it, but Sammy, I don't think you're a total corporate Democrat hack. But you didn't represent that well in your debate with my friend Tim Black. I gotta say, I agree with Tim. Sammy, you got no right to bitch about some YouTubers getting clicks with the murder mystery of Seth Rich. Just repeating Seth Rich fake news hit piece. Come on now, Sammy. That's such a bore to me. Having more discussions with Tim about this beef. That would mean so much more to me. Yeah, so I like it. It's good, bud. Why not politely invite Tim Black to return on the Majority Report show? That would prove you got more credibility than your girl Rachel Maddow. That lucky lady Rachel Maddow getting $30K a day. She's peddling that Russia, Russia, Russia in her same old arrogant way. Personally, I question Rachel Maddow's credibility a whole lot more than I would YouTube stars like Tim Black, H.A. Goodman, and who am I gonna say? Jimmy Dore, Jimmy Dore. I'm talking about credibility, hypocrisy. Are you trapped in a bubble where you wanna be? Hey man, is that cold brand proposition getting to your head? Maybe you should be focusing on your own credibility instead. Hey, is the credibility, hypocrisy? Am I doing it now? Am I trapped in my bubble where I wanna be? I don't know, maybe that cold brand proposition is getting to my head. Oh, maybe I should be focusing on my own credibility instead. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
I for one enjoyed that.
I think the way he led up to Jimmy Dore was very impressive.
Yeah.
I didn't,
very Leon Redbone.
I don't know that. What's Leon Redbone?
Well, it's very Leon Redbone-ish. I don't know. Do people not know who Leon Redbone?
Let me just say for Jimmy, because that was a good song. I'm Rachel Maddow. Russia, 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 Russia. Hillary Clinton, Russia. The year was 1978.
All right. Well, we've got to take a break and head into the fun half of the program, wherein we will have a fun half. I think we don't have much. We don't get much in terms of sound, but we'll take some phone calls.
You want to let them know about Monday and Tuesday as well?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, Monday we're going to have a pre-recorded program, and members will be getting a deep archive show as well as a new interview. Correct, Matt? And we may even throw up a deep archive for Tuesday, even though my experience has been on July 4th. People don't download that much, but we'll put up a deep archive for members. We'll be back live on Wednesday. I think, and I will say this, it's Friday, June 30th. There's a lot of people taking Monday off. Donald Trump, didn't he tweet something the other day like, there's going to be a big surprise? I think there's going to be a major news drop at 5 p.m. today, maybe 6 p.m. I think it's going to be, Sean Spicer has been replaced by Sarah Sanders Huckabee or...
no one ever gives me credit for her.
And, or it could very well be more people are fired or,
There's a lawsuit against CNN.
Jared Kushner is now, he's in charge of all of it.
Or I had no idea what Jared is up to.
Or
and he's getting arrested.
Maybe it's, I don't know. I think there's going to be a major news drop today. And it's going to be extremely frustrating. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll do a YouTube Live if I could figure out how to do that.
Of course you can.
I gotta deal with the kids tonight, and then I gotta go to the hospital, do another hospital run. So we'll see. But buckle up and shoot straight. Do something. I don't know what I was going with that. Yeah, that's my new sign off. Buckle up and shoot straight. Everybody. As we go into the fun half. Hey, just a reminder, I should say. Oh, I know what else I want to tell you. Okay. You at the top of this program, we announced that we have won the 4 out of the last 5, actually, podcast Best News in Politics Podcast Awards at podcastawards.com. The reason why we didn't win the 5th one was because we were ineligible, because we had won 4 and they had changed the rules, and so we were a legacy show. They changed the rules again. And now you're not a legacy show until you win 5, which means we are eligible to win the Best News in Politics. So starting tomorrow, July 1st, nominations open up. And so all you got to do is go, and I don't know what it is, go to podcastawards.com. And I think the page is going to change tomorrow. But they're going to open up the nominations. You go there, nominate us for Best News and Politics. And you can go back there. Actually, go scroll through it because you can see what happened. In 2000, let's see. What was the first year we had the show? I don't think we were in, I think it wasn't until 2011. We were the Best News in Politics. Let's see. Yeah, Majority Report. And then 2012, it was the Majority Report. You go down there. So you scroll up there, Matt. Scroll up a little bit. Scroll up a little bit. Go up a little more. Yeah, there you go. So you can go to like 2011. Start with 2011. And there we are, Best News in Politics, Majority Report. And then go to 2012. And you can see the Majority Report, because I didn't really realize, I didn't know how to remember what the year before we had called it. And then 2013, we go back to Majority Report, not the Majority Report. And then 2014, there was no year that somehow we won 2014, but they gave us, I think, 2015, right? The Majority Report. I go back to the Majority Report. And then 2016, we weren't eligible. So I don't know. No agenda. I don't know what that means, but I think it's time to have an agenda again. And so you go, you nominate us, and then the voting starts soon. So, and I'm pretty sure we registered. So, and I think we paid the $10. to register. We as in me. I think I did that. I think it was one of those like, I can't sleep. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm too worried about Trump. I might as well register for the podcast awards.
Oh, look, the podcast awards are happening.
There you go.
Let me do that.
Hello.
Hello.
We should also say...
Is it a call from John Podesta that I need to neutralize somebody else? God damn it.
Did we mention that we're a Webby honoree? Did we do that?
Yeah, we did that.
Okay.
We mentioned that.
Maybe we'll do a
Now we have a
video with the plaque.
You should do that.
Yeah, the plaque only cost like $17,000, I think, too, right? It was a 17 grand that we spent on the plaque, so that was good. All right, folks, to support that plaque, we need you to become a member of the Majority Report because it costs like 17 grand. Something. Okay, whatever. It sort of felt like, didn't they say if you wanted a second one or something, it was like $5,000?
Yes, if you win, you get the plaque. If you want a second plaque.
What do you do
need
with
like
$2,500? What do you do with the second plaque?
I don't know. You put it in your home office, or like there's places that have
I'll
more.
just photocopy it. I'll take a picture and I'll put that in a frame. I'll take a picture of the picture.
Yeah, I think some operations are working a little bit
really plaque.
differently
It's more
than
like
ours.
framed, yeah. Yeah, I guess if you're like it's all the big companies, then it's like we want 6 of those and we're going to put them in our lobby. And we're going to put them in our conference room, and we're going to put them in our studio. We can cover all 3 of those places.
I would imagine if you are large enough and you're going to put them in all those places, they would not make you pay for them. They would want you to hang them on your wall in your...
Well, nevertheless, we were a Webby honoree. So to support, if we ever want to buy a second plaque, join themajorityreport.com. It is your membership that makes this show possible. Despite the fact that Jimmy thinks that we're corporate shills.
Total corporate shills.
I will say this, BP gives us a lot of money to play those Jimmy Reefer Cake songs. So become a member today at jointhemajorityreport.com. Also, justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, tea, or chocolate. Use the coupon code MAJORITY. Also, if you buy your crap from Amazon or Jet.com, do so at MajorityReportKickback.com. 646-257-3920. We'll be right back.
All the time. She said, no, 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 no. Like to speak my mind. She said, no, 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 no. And I know her time's not free. She didn't waste none on me. Situation sad. Said no, 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 no. Things are looking bad. She said no, 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 no. And if it was up to me, I'd tell her a thing or three. Every time I see her my way, I don't know, girl, what to say. Situation sad. She said no, 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 no. Things are looking bad. She said no, 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 no. And if it was up to me, I'd tell her a thing or three. No, 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 no. No, 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 no.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You know what it is. It's the fun half. 646-257-3920 is the number. 646-257-3920. Let's go right now to the 646 area code. In fact, where are you calling from? Who's this? (646) area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? We will get back to you later. You're calling from an 847 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Sam. It's Josh from Chicago.
Hello, Josh. What's on your mind?
Josh, how are you?
Oh. Great right-wing Mandela.
What?
So I watched I watched that documentary, the documentary made about the live show.
Yeah.
And it was the most powerful scene was when Bill Clinton went up to you and said, "I knew it was you, Sam. I knew you killed Suffrage."
Yeah, that was. We debated as to whether or not to include that in the
It was
the
you
cut.
all-
We
it
were
was
going to make that the
you
director's cut.
all along with my wife.
Well, if he asked you to go on any fishing boats, I wouldn't.
That's right. No, I'm never going to go fishing. What's going on?
There was I saw an article recently where it said it was like Chuck Schumer and a few other of these Democratic senators said they wanted to work on the health care bill with Republicans or wanted to improve Obamacare with Republicans. And I guess my question is, what the fuck were they thinking? Because don't they know that Republicans have no interest in improving Obamacare? They just want tax cuts.
I think what they were thinking is that they know that, and that's why they offered it.
Okay.
I mean, I certainly that's what I would do, right? I mean, if I were them, I would say, because look, let's remember what Elizabeth Warren did. Elizabeth Warren 4 or 5 months ago said, "I will work out with the Republicans to to fix the Affordable Care Act." Now, fixing the Affordable Care Act means making it more insurance less expensive, making deductions small. I mean, what do you call it? Premium smaller, making the oh God, I can't even remember the word now. The deductible smaller, and she said, "I'm willing to do that," and then we'll see what happens. If that doesn't happen, maybe single payer is the way to go. And she just said that the other day. So this it's almost the equivalent, and the way they're playing this. And I think, look, the reality is that the American public is highly uninformed about this stuff. And the process stuff, not the process stuff, but the disposition of people makes something of a slight difference. And so if they say, we're willing to work with the Republicans on the Affordable Care Act, it's the equivalent of like, I went through the proper chain of command, which is,
right.
We say we'll work with you on the Affordable Care Act. They know they don't want to do that. And in fact, that's what Mitch McConnell has been saying to his own caucus. If you don't pass this, we're going to have to work with them. That's the way he scares them. And so they come out, they offer that. They know the Republicans are not going to do that. In fact, the Republicans, it's cornering them in some ways. And to me, it makes the most sense from their perspective. Obviously, Bernie's going to go at single payer immediately. And we've just seen Elizabeth Warren having to basically walk through the steps to get to advocating it, which just happened the other day. And that's what's going to happen. I mean, I think they're going to stake out single payer. I think probably in 6 years, we will get more of a Medicare buy-in or a Medicaid for all as a baseline. I mean, something along those lines, I think is where we're headed. But in the meantime, there's going to be a lot of...
You think this is just
posturing?
You think it's just like posturing?
Well, I mean, look, listen, if the Republicans were to come to them and say, okay, we'll work with you, let's do a public option in every state. And let's expand Medicaid. And let's take everybody off the exchanges. And you're eligible for Medicaid. We're going to throw money, all those subsidies, we're going to throw it into Medicaid. And so up to 400%, Medicaid's going to become a fundamentally different program. We're going to increase the rate of or the payments to providers. If the Republicans came to him and said that, I would be like,
sounds
take
good.
it. Take it.
Do it.
Hey, Josh, you know what else is posturing?
Oh, no.
What I
my
do
mom
with
was
your mother. Boom. Shakalaka.
All right, appreciate the call, Josh.
Listen, young man, I
All
can
right.
introduce you to Zanani, okay?
All right, bye, Josh.
Don't feel too bad.
Bye. Let's go to, you calling from a 509 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey everyone, this is Ronald Reagan. Thanks for listening. Remember, for more videos like this one, just hit subscribe here and leave comments below if you think my channel is the coolest. You know, Sam Seder can barely keep his facts straight when he's talking about politics. But when it comes to slime, he's way off base. First, he goes after Karen B and says her slime sucks. Now, if Sam wants to think that, that's fine. But he's got a large audience of people who don't know the first thing about slime, and it's really unfair for him to be spreading these lies. He says JC and Macy's slime sucks because it only has 3 styrofoam balls. Well, here he exposes his ignorance, because slime with balls isn't even slime, it's phloem, okay? Also, check out the video right here of JC and Macy making their phloem. They use way more than 3 balls, so it doesn't check out, let's be honest. Sam Seder is a total hack loser who probably doesn't even have friends. He's clearly trying to distract us from the fact that Mila makes the worst slime and sucks at phloem too.
He's a genius.
We got to put that out there.
Is a genius.
We got to put that out there.
That was a perfect spoof of that sort of genre.
That was incredible.
Yep. I even wonder if it was a spoof. I mean, you don't think Ronald Reagan spends all his time just making money from immigration law, do you? No, of
No,
course not.
I think he must be able to do immigration law whilst thinking about anything but immigration law, because he spends so much time thinking about the show.
He contributed to the behind the scenes documentary. What else is he doing with that video camera? Probably slime videos. That's what I think.
That was amazing.
Well, phone camera, slime videos. Calling from an 818 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is John Downey. I'm calling from Plano, Texas.
Hey, John.
Yeah. So, I was wondering you guys' argument on Cass. He based and he did a study on the mortality rate.
I'm sorry, you broke up. I didn't hear the front part. Can you start again? What's our thoughts on what?
Sorry. Yeah, I was doing speakerphone. That's my fault. But there was a study done by Warren Cass. He's a economist at I believe the Manhattan Institute. But he did a study, and it showed that mortality went up under the ACA during 2015.
Yes.
Because you're hearing, yeah. So
mortality.
So
well, okay. I don't know that that particular study, but the mortality rate for white men, I think between 45 and 55. I'm just doing this from memory, okay? And there was in 2015, or maybe it was 2014, there was an increase in the rate of mortality, which was a function of the opioid epidemic. And largely suicide and the opioid epidemic, overdoses and suicide. It reverted back to the mean, I think, in 2016, or if it was 2014, then back to 2015. But nevertheless, yeah, it's really disturbing. But that's also like saying, it also, the mortality rate not only went up under the Affordable Care Act, but also under the performance of the stock market. It also correlates with
I can see
the Patriots winning the
opioid
Super
and
Bowl.
the-
I mean, there's
Yeah,
a difference between
the
causal
suicide.
connection and correlation. And there's simply no way to make the argument that the increase in an opioid addiction treatment under Medicaid from where it was before caused an increase in mortality rate. There's just no way to make that argument. They happened concurrently, yes, but there's a difference between correlation and causation.
Yeah, I think there was numbers for this year that was down, and the only reason I mentioned 2015 because they were down substantially. Like I know there's a lot of there's a big opioid problem, but it was like 80,000, so I thought it was pretty high. And yeah, and then also just real quick on the there was that big scandal with CNN basically saying that the reporter thought the Russia story was fake and how they pushed that, and it just makes me think that CNN is ISIS because they're pushing fake news, and that's why I listen to InfoWars. And I just thought it was crazy how that came out. And then Van Jones, he said it's similar. I don't know. His statement is like weird. I've never even heard that term, like a nothing burger. I don't know if it's meaning that it's fake and he doesn't believe it. Or
Well,
that
no, I think he's. I mean, look,
Russia.
he's been saying, and to some extent, I agree that the Democrats can't run on that. And I think that's. I don't know. They didn't put it in context.
Okay.
But you know what? I mean, the things I've disagreed with Van Jones over the past 5 years are pretty large.
No, yeah. What about Rand Paul, real quick? He wants to make it to where people in AARP, like a group, they can all pool together and pay for insurance, like in a big group, so it's a lot less cost.
Yeah.
And you don't have to rely on your employer. I was wondering what you thought about that. 'Cause
Well,
I think that's a really good compromise.
I think it's a great idea to get as big of a pool as possible for all these people to form essentially one group where they all pay into some insurance program, because that spreads the risk and it becomes cheaper, right? And you could decouple it from employers. And in fact, we have something that is already like that. It's called Medicare. And if we were to expand Medicare from where it is to now, just 65 and older, to let's say 45 and older, or frankly, you could all the way go down to like 20 and older. In fact, you could go all the way down to birth and get everybody in. It would have the impact that Rand Paul is talking about, but even more of what is good about what he's talking about would be there. So I would suggest a Medicare for all type of system.
Mind blown.
And with that, the phone breaks. Let's go.
You got like giddy on the work up to that. He's like,
This is what Al Franken did in the
Yes,
Senate,
exactly.
and now I'm about to do it.
Yes,
It's
it was pretty
coming.
fun. Epish. Trust me, I know what Larry Murphy's talking about as regards to the accent issue. Coasties tend to take me a lot more seriously when I'm writing because they stop listening when I'm talking in a Midwestern accent like Twista. By the way, blackmailing media is a Reince Priebus hallmark. He's been doing it for more than 20 years now. Again, people don't realize how dangerous Reince is with a mouthful of Wisconsin cream corn. Also, in what world is Jimmy Dore less corporate than Sam Seder? It's starting to sound like corporate is becoming synonymous with globalists for these folks, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
yeah, but I will. I don't obviously Reince. That makes sense, but it's getting reported that little scumbag Jared was the one doing the
Really?
calls, which makes sense because I think
He's
he's the one
more
with the
New
Clice-
York,
Yeah,
yes.
he's got that relationship.
Which sucks because the institutional media has failed us miserably in refusing to be serious and name names is screwing up real criticism like MR Crew does on a regular basis. Hope all goes well. I'll light a candle for you guys. Bye.
Incidentally, MSNBC is saying there's no plans for Joe to turn over text messages to prove his claims, even though Joe's on Twitter right now saying he's got text messages.
Big Steve, any thoughts on the O'Keefe CNN videos he's been releasing the past few days? No.
Nothing burger.
Exactly. Neff, remember Trump saying said there's a big surprise coming today, wishing everyone okay, yes. How's the medical situation? things are trending in the right direction. Thank you. Bull Prague, $15 minimum wage ordinance just passed in Minneapolis. All right, we'll give him one of these. Nuclear Negroid. Other jokes Trump, Joe, and Donnie are in on. The UFO landing at Roswell, who shot Tupac, Kelly's secret, rich kids of Instagram life. Other jokes Trump, Joe, Donnie are in on. Oh, yeah, okay, you did that again. One more, Nick. Oh, sweet Jesus, that Jimmy song just turned me into a weed-hating corporate Democrat. Also, Mika, total 10. Even with that face bleeding, I would still scar that I still scar that burrow. That's horrible. I'm sorry to make that joke. Hillary threatened to Vince Foster me if I didn't say it. Secret identity politics. I miss Sean Spicer. He would not have let what happened to Sarah Huckabee Sanders happen to him. He's the kind of person who would have started to take his clothes off if it meant he didn't have to deal with that. Also, from now on Rachel Maddow shall be referred to as Ya Girl. Attorney Andrew. Sam, I have a story about Chris Kobach. Okay. I need to ask my friend if it's okay to share. You can just read the... Okay. You got to send me an email with that, Attorney Andrew. Here's the, folks, I don't know what you think happens with the IMs, but I read them, and if I don't read them out loud, if you don't say, don't read this out loud, I usually read it out loud. You were smart enough to say, like, don't read this out loud yet, but then I'm just reading to myself.
Can you take my call off air, please?
The audio show becomes a little less than dynamic. So you've got to email me that. It'll take a little bit, but I'll keep my eyes open. Just put Attorney Andrew in the subject line. You guys watching Twin Peaks? Ask that now, Mike. I mean, Matt, because you know. Come on. Also, I'd like to write a column for Reefer Cake site. I'm going to call it Jimmy and Joey B. Dumb and Smoke Shitty Weed. I'm pretty sure he's a hypocrite to not take me up on this offer. I love the idea of Reagan doing actual research into the Flume community for that joke, and now recommends videos as full of slime channels. Erection meddling. Calling it now. Psycho Joe, Low IQ Mika 2020, or Droopy Mika. Kenny Mac 44. That's funny, Sam. Whenever I hear the Cliff Schecter song in my head, I hear it in the voice of Leon Redbone. Interesting. MR member, you mentioned that YouTube accidental shooting yesterday when that guy thought he was holding a bulletproof book. Jimmy Dore covered that. Turns out it was a masked Hillary taking out one of her disgruntled slaves. Hillary's House Negro. Did you guys read Joseph Ballin's hot take on all the hypocrisy.com about your debate with Tim Black? I did not see
God. I might need to read that over the weekend.
Ballin says he's a member, and I have this theory that Ballin is old Matt trying to stay relevant over at the Majority Report. Have Kyle investigate. Paycheckadelic Quaker. I'm curious if Tim Black, Jimmy Dore, or Jimmy Reefer Cakes have any children. I think their delusional idealism blinds them to the reality that they're partially responsible for leaving this mess to future generations so they can pat themselves on the back for voting for a Green New Deal. Hashtag plausible deniability.
Yeah, I voted for the only candidate with the Green New Deal, so I feel pretty good about that.
Nick from Manitoba. Why is it we think Sam shot Seth rich? Knowing Sam, it doesn't make any sense. Think about it. Bullets. Although individually they are cheap, when one is doing jobs for the Clintons, those costs pile up, which leads me to my hypothesis. I'm convinced Sam uses piano wire to strangle his targets. Though they may cost more than one bullet, but you get a lot of mileage out of them. Plus, guns are loud and would hurt Sam's sensitive ears.
But my back hurts when I garrote people, do you see?
Whereas wires are noiseless. And I think most important, while Sam is doing the strangling, that gives him a window to quickly scan the ground for some dimes. Thus, the wire ultimately pays for itself. Cheers and stay sweet. Believe me, I have the documents. Wendy. Brian Statler reporting Joe Scarborough kept several NBC executives appraised on the alleged threats contemporaneously. That means a lot of people thought it was okay to keep silent about the president blackmailing news cable. Yeah, it is amazing. Zeepaw, this Trump-Mika personality fight seems on the same level as the Access Hollywood tape controversy. That didn't kill his run, but it really could have. I still have the same feeling about this, except we're in the time before its importance in the timeline of Trump's presidency. What's going to be interesting to see if anybody else, any other reporters come out and say this. I mean, it seems impossible to imagine that they just tried to blackmail one reporter. Erot, I'm lying in Oslo, Norway with a broken ankle. At the ER, I didn't pay a thing, and waiting time was only 15 minutes. By the way, today I received a full month's salary and sick pay from the government, even though I'm employed in the private sector. You could too. It's social. It's a social and political choice. Oh, my God. Absolutely. See, Michael Ellis. How can Jimmy Dore make this Mike and Joe thing about how bad the Democratic Party is? From what I can tell,
fucking Democrats.
Politicians like Gillibrand have moved left as the left has pushed them. Yes, and she moved left, frankly, as she went from what is a purple reddish district, now known as District 19, at the time was District 20 in New York, to the full state.
But I think there's a middle ground where she went from, because she was very conservative socially when she represented that district in the House. I think she was not supportive of gun control. She wasn't supportive of immigration reform.
She was not supportive of gun control.
And then she kind of moved to the left socially as a senator. But I think in like the last year, she has moved to the left economically, which she hadn't before.
Yes, I think that's true. It took her like literally like half an hour to change her stance on guns.
Right.
Calling from a 215 area code. Who's this? And I'll be honest with you. I'm from that district. I understand it. Calling from a 215 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 215? 215? That's weird. Oh yeah. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sam, it's Mindy.
Mindy, what are you doing? You're breaking the time-space continuum. With
I
your
don't
call.
know. I don't know what happened. Listen.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I have to tell you something. Your shows this week were so good and informative. The two people you had on were amazing.
Oh, well, I'm
I
glad
loved
you liked it. Oh, I'm happy, Mindy. That makes me feel good.
And it made me feel better. And I actually bought the book.
Oh, good.
Should come today from Amazon. The other thing I wanted to say is your friend Larry,
Yeah.
I completely understand where he's coming from. I was a normal housewife, and now I'm this crazy political freak. I mean, I am so crazed and outraged over this whole thing that, like, I can't even function, and I know what your friend's like.
Well,
So-
I mean, Larry at least, I mean, he can make it to the voiceover booth. I hope you're, I mean, I'm working. No, I work.
I work at home. I work at home, and I do go out, and I go out to eat, and I go out to lunch, and I buy clothes, and I put on makeup, and I take a shower, and all that shit. But I just want you to know that it's like since this whole thing happened, there's no normality. Like there's just no normality at all, and I'm obsessed with it, and to the point where like my husband's like freaking out on me.
Well, look, I think that's a perfectly legitimate reaction. I mean, something, it's a very dark time, I think, for this country, and I think it's going to be. I think this stuff is going to be more durable than people seem to think. People seem to think that it's just like he goes out of office, whatever, in the next 6 months or something, and everything reverts back. No, I don't think so. I think there's a lot of things that have been broken that we won't realize how badly they've been broken for a couple of years.
Sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead.
No, I mean, I had a sinus infection. I went to my family doctor, who I've been going to for 30 years, and he's in his mid-60s. Nice guy. I told him I was getting my other knee replaced in August. He said, I thought you were going to wait a few years. And I said, I can't because I don't know what's going on with the insurance. And he says, oh, don't worry about that. They'll figure it out. It's going to be fine. Like my freaking doctor who went to medical school doesn't even see a problem. I mean, you walk out.
There was a lot of people when Trump was elected who would say the establishment Republicans will bring him to heel and they'll be able to. And the thing is, they didn't realize that, like, and this is what I said before the election. Trump is both going to be a blank check, like a blank check. He's just going to sign whatever they bring to him, and he's also going to be a total loose cannon. And that's basically what we have. He is going to sign whatever Paul Ryan brings him, and then he's also going to endanger this country in a myriad of different ways that other people aren't on board with, even in his own party.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that this whole thing with Trump, I don't think Trump is the problem. I think Trump is the byproduct of the Koch brothers' problem with the country. I mean, that's what I think the problem is.
I think you're absolutely
go
right.
In this Yeah, we were going to go in this direction anyway. It didn't matter. Unless we can get back into office, which I don't even know how we can ever. I mean, I'm sorry to sound so cynical, but unless we can get back into office with I think is, you know, a real long shot. I mean, I think that we're going to look back on this as the good old times.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're wrong, Mindy, but I think there's a perfectly rational, I think it's perfectly rational to think you're right.
I mean, that's how crazed I am about this whole thing. And, oh, by the way, my girlfriend, the Republican, haven't talked to her in 3 weeks. Can't fucking stand her. Don't ever want to talk to her again. I'm so pissed off that I won't even talk to her.
Well, you got plenty of
we're
other
done.
friends. Don't worry about it.
No, I do. I have other friends. Actually, Jay Tingle's wife is one of my best friends.
Oh, my God. Well, all right.
You didn't know that, did you?
I did know that.
You didn't. You did know that.
How did we get your information? We got you. I did. I heard that a while back.
But yeah. But last thing, I'm not going to keep you because I'm not, I like to keep you. But I am really in Larry's ballpark. I get it. I'm like that obsessed with it. And I was just a normal person before this, and I am seeing. I don't know. The more I talk to my doctor, it's just so uncomforting. People are really misinformed. They have no clue, zero clue. I mean, I guess watching The Handmaid's Tale and all that, I should probably curtail. Because did you watch that?
I've started to watch a little bit of it. My understanding is it's a little bit disturbing, so I would be careful.
Okay, if you can get past the first 2 episodes, episode 8 is the best episode of TV I've ever seen in my life.
All right. Well, don't no spoiler alerts, but I get the point. It's a little bit dark.
No
my
spoiler
understanding.
alerts. Yeah, it's dark. Well, I got another good show. One last show. You should all watch the Night Manager. It's another amazing show.
All right, Night Manager.
The Night Manager. Okay, you have a great weekend.
Thank you.
I'm going to be sitting July 4th reading my new book.
Good. All right,
I'm freaking
appreciate
out, Sam. I mean, there's a lot of us out there. Thank you for what you do. I really.
Mindy,
love
do you have a Twitter handle?
Yeah. Yes, I told you what my. Oh, I'll give it to you one more time. Okay, Mayday Mindy 9.
Mayday Mindy 9. It's not Mayday Mindy
9.
1 through 8, folks. It's Mayday Mindy 9.
No, somebody had Mayday Mindy regular who doesn't even use it, so I had to be Mayday Mindy 9.
But why did you have to be 9 as opposed to like 1?
Because 9's my favorite number.
Okay, all right, good. Well,
Okay.
I mean, mystery solved.
I have 2,500 followers. I actually had my first troll today.
Oh, all right. Well,
I
hope you dispatch
my
him.
first troll. Yeah, I gave him a wood for, and then I blocked him. That's what I always tell my kids to do. So that's what I did.
All right, good for you, Mindy. Thanks for the call.
All right, tell me I needed a facelift. My picture's there if you want to see what I look like, and it's current.
All right,
Okay.
there you go, folks. Mayday Mindy
All right.
9. Thanks,
Yeah, have
Mindy.
a good weekend.
You too.
I love you.
Love you too. Calling from a 651 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Chris Lapaco. Yes, the Chris Lapaco. I also have a Twitter account. It's the Chris Lapaco. It's true. It's all true. Hi.
Hi. How are you, the Chris
Hey.
Lapaco? My understanding is that
I'm
you
good,
are the
man.
king of all earned media. Is that right?
It's true. It's also true. Everything's true about me, guys. Everything you've heard. Hey, did you know it's Straight Pride Week this week?
No.
Are you guys doing anything to celebrate?
Just watching Steven Crowder.
Straight Pride.
Oh,
Is it
love
straight?
it. Yeah, all these Pepe the Frog types are doing. Yeah, they're like promoting it, and it's like heterosexual Pride Day and whatever, man. And like, I'm happy that these straight guys are coming out of the closet because it must be tough to walk around everywhere and have everyone think that you're gay. You know, it's just because they have lisps and they're unable to throw a football and they refuse to speak to women does not mean they're gay. It just means they can't get laid. So, like, I'm glad that they're finally they have a voice now. So
It is nice
I just wanna
that
say
straight people
And-
can finally come out of the shadows and have a
Yes.
week after the huge raids that we've been suffering in the straight bar scene. where if you go there, then the cops just beat you up for joining in the cell. There's nothing worse than the cops waiting for you to come out of a ladies' night at a bar, just so they can beat you up for being straight.
You know it happens to me all the time. Also, speaking of raids, the feds are headed to Chicago. Did you see that?
No.
Oh yeah, they're going there. So that should be on people's radar. I just saw it on Washington Post, I think it was.
They're going to Chicago for what? Like, what did you see?
It's a gun violence crackdown.
Oh,
they're going to
okay.
go after all these gang members and everything.
Oh,
It's
I
just
see.
like
Okay.
Trump was saying during the election. We're going to send the feds in there. Well, once again, like, he's going to do that stuff, and people are just going to be like, well, it's normal. It's normal. And like Mindy was saying, like, she's freaking out about all this stuff. I think a lot of people are just fatigued, and they don't even want to think about it. They're
Yeah.
just zoning out and, like,
It's exhausting.
everything will be okay, I hope. Yeah. Oh, last thing, and then I will let you guys go here. For all the Seth Rich, like, psychopaths and people that are worried about the, like, conspiracies about Hillary killing people, They were getting at me on my YouTube channel because I'm like, shut up about that stuff. They're like, you think we should talk about Russia? Here's my thing, man. Do you guys think it is more likely that Hillary killed Seth Rich or that Trump had hookers piss on a bed? Like, I think it's much more likely that Trump paid hookers to piss on a bed. And if they want to make things up and go into conspiracy theories, they should look into that P-tape thing.
I don't know whether
So
you're
love
on
you
her
guys. Have a good
payroll
weekend.
or
Yep.
you're simply naive.
All right, say hi to
I'm a
Robbie
total
Mook
corporate shill.
at dinner tonight.
Goddamn corporate chill. Yeah, enjoy.
Oh, yeah, the checks in the mail.
There's
Checks in the
checks in the
mail.
mail. Checks in the mail. Enjoy a straight Pride Day with Robbie Mook.
The Chris Lepaco. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. The Chris Lepaco. All right, we'll take one more call, then go to some IMs. You calling from a 901 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Joshua from Arizona.
Hello,
and,
Joshua. What's up?
originally from Tennessee.
All right, well, fair enough.
So early this week, I was listening to the Funhouse, and John from San Diego called in.
John from San
and he
Antonio,
said,
sir.
Oh my goodness! I feel awful.
Wow.
Oh, that kind of changes.
What are you
Okay,
going to tell me?
it
It's
doesn't-
Mindy.
not too much.
It's Mayday Mindy 7.
Oh no!
No, it's Mayday
Okay.
Mindy 9. All right, go ahead.
All right. So he said, lots of problems in this country. Most of them stem from the South, and I feel that that's nonsense. So we can start with police and community relations. In the last couple of years, we had Ferguson, Missouri, Falcon Heights, Minnesota, stop and frisk, and then we can go to schooling, where the most famous backlash to Boston, the most segregated school district is New York City. Charter schools are from Minnesota and California originally. And, every subject like this, you could find something that is wrong in one area and right somewhere else. And my point is that this is kind of an imperfect country filled with imperfect people, and blaming the country's problems on just one geographical subset is not really productive, and it's divisive.
I think, look, obviously, all those instances you cited are legit, and I think that I think I would have an argument with anybody who says that all the problems come from one place. But I think there is a clear. I think it's very hard to argue that the problems that showed themselves most pointedly during the Civil War have not resonated through our history. Okay, broadly speaking, the exploitation of labor is more prominent in the South throughout our history, starting with slavery to the entire so-called right-to-work movement and the anti-unionism of the South. Are there anti-union forces up north? Of course. Is it increasing? Yes. And I think that is the case. Is there racism up north? Yes. Was it as institutionalized? Did the North benefit from the racism And the slavery in the South, yes. Was it as institutionalized and, integral to the society? No. I mean, in terms of, you can go through issues of like just women's equality. If you look at the states that were the last to give up those laws that said women were chattel of their husband, they are predominantly from the South. There's always counterexamples. But, I mean, if you want to talk about just sort of broad strokes. Now, there's an argument that talking in broad strokes is not necessarily helpful. But it's not clear to me that the problem is that John from San Antonio or anyone sort of recognizes these things. That's not the problem. The problem is the problems, right? Like the second order stuff,
yeah, I agree with that completely.
And I've raised that point where that one time I was on with Christine Todd Whitman and on some show, and she said, maybe Republicans would be more willing to come around about climate change if Democrats weren't so in your face about it. And, I don't know. I maybe that's the case, but I find that hard to believe. If the idea that someone's too riled up about climate change is more relevant than climate change, I don't think that there's going to be an attitude change. Now, I don't know what is helpful about just simply saying, our problems emanate from the South. I think it is helpful to say, look, we have to understand our history. When you're talking about race in this country, you have to realize that, like, this stuff isn't necessarily, coming out of nowhere or coming back. It has been part of a continuum where, if you look at the graph, there's ebbs and flows, but the graph is in a specific direction. We're on a continuum with all of these problems. And then there's some times where, maybe the power shifts a little bit, and then it comes back. I think it's important to understand this stuff so that you can begin to sort of say, like, okay, what is a broader movement? What is realistic? What is the timeline? What things need to happen? I think that's all really important. And I think it's more important than the idea of it being divisive for some people.
Right.
So, but I think it's also just as equally important to say, like, yeah, Boston, unbelievably racist.
I hate the South. God damn it.
And I think, the segregation in the schools in New York City, huge problem. And these things must be acknowledged.
But also, and they're not personal statements about people. They're structural statements.
Yeah.
There's structural politics in the South that have favored certain policies that have been to the detriment of the country. That's not like Southern people are bad.
Right. No, I was not.
Although they are.
I don't take
obviously.
it personally. Yeah, thank you. That's nice.
Jeez.
But what about, let's see, we talk a lot about, or you guys talk a lot about on the show about finance capitalism. And I wouldn't really put the South in that as much as other regions of the country.
I would say yes. The financialism, the financialization of our country definitely emanates out of Wall Street. But I mean, and I think it's specifically Wall Street. I mean, you can see. I think major cities have these businesses, and Chicago, I guess. But it's really the financialization is Wall Street. But I mean, you don't not hear us say Wall Street. Right. I mean, and
we
I
say
think
Wall Streetification of the economy all the time.
Well, financialization.
Or financialization.
But I mean, I think so. And that's not to say like the people who live in Lower Manhattan are all bad people.
Terrible people.
And it's not to say that even all people who work on Wall Street are bad people.
None of these conversations where we're making like category comments are a comment on all people.
It is just, traditions and institutions that are problematic.
Why don't you fellas ever talk about Jew Street?
We never do Jewish accents in this program.
I never do that.
I know.
No.
Yeah, we don't do Jewish accents either.
We never do Jewish
And I'm from
Never.
the South, and I don't have accents like that. This is my fake South accent.
What about, you could talk about South, what about goddamn Wall Street y'all seem to be so concerned about? Where the hell you think that
Well,
emanates
thank
from?
you for the call. I appreciate it,
Yes,
and
thank
it's
you.
been a wonderful
It
conversation.
was very, very noble of you to defend
Bye-bye.
your region like that.
Bye-bye.
Okay, go enjoy yourself. Have
Well,
a pig
having
roast.
A little nosh. Yeah. They're very polite from down there. Comey, don't play that. After being disqualified, MR is suddenly re-eligible for Best News and Politics Award. Jimmy Dore is investigating the mysterious disappearance of a podcast award intern. A.K. Cook. A few days ago, his Iowa crowd cheered the idea of solar-powered wall. What wall supporter is also a solar supporter? These are the same people who are livid that Obama picked winners and losers. Solyndra Solar Company. What do they think? Trump, a builder, won't hand-select cronies to build his wall? Zero principles. The Panamanian. They changed the rules again, like that's news to you. Here over at Senop Supplements, our chess has way more dimensions than yours. All right. Newberman, to Jimmy Reefer Cake, where are all the songs about the millions of people who will soon lose their health care and thousands who will die because of it?
And the ones who don't have pot.
Yeah, what about public pot? What about a public weed option? I would get behind that.
Larry's right-wing Andy Kindler impressions made my weekend. Good show today. Cliff is consistently intelligent and coherent. Always appreciate his insights. It's Canada's 150th birthday this weekend. Shofar for your northern neighbors. Even though you guys now hate us, with reason, Canadians don't like America anymore.
I thought that was always kind of the case.
No, they just wanted to distinguish themselves from Americans when they go travel. That's why they had those flags in their backpacks all the time.
Oh, I see.
They don't want to be recognized as Americans. I don't blame them.
But it's also silly. I remember Canadians in Turkey, like, they'd be like, but we're from a totally different country. And the Turks were just like, no, you're not. Like, in reality, you're just more white people from the north of the world.
All right. We'll take one more phone call and then 5 IMs. Calling from a 732 area code. I'm sorry, rest of the callers can't get to you. I apologize. 732. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, how's it going, Sam? This is Bilal from Jersey City.
What's happening?
Hey, Sam. So that was interesting that a couple of days ago, you guys played a Mitch McConnell clip where he's supporting healthcare.
Yep.
And I guess 2 days ago, Intercept had a story about Jim Brown and his reversal on single payer.
You mean Jerry Brown?
For California?
Jerry Brown?
Jerry Brown, sorry.
Okay.
Yes, Jerry Brown. And I just wanted to know what your assessment was on Democrats and liberals in general and their convictions. It seems like a lot of, well, not a lot, I shouldn't say a lot, but there are a couple of Bernie-crats who were also elected, one in New York Congress, that once they come into power, once they have the chance to actually implement, they back off.
Yeah.
Can I just say really quickly, you should read David Dane has a really good piece in The Intercept about how all sides of this healthcare bill in California are lying. And like, I don't want to give an excuse for Jerry Brown because he has run on he ran on single payer in 92. He hasn't run on single payer in any of his current campaigns. He ran on Obamacare, but he would say he opposed it because there literally isn't, like, they're going to need to do a lot more to create a funding mechanism for that.
Well,
and the people who support have an opportunity to take it to a ballot initiative.
Look, here, I mean, first off, all politicians, broadly speaking, take positions that they reverse on when they get in some respects. It's not just Democrats.
Right, but this is kind of fundamental, right?
Well, I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean, I don't know what I to be honest with you, I don't think that Jerry Brown had necessarily run on single payer. But with that said, there is, I mean, I can tell you that policy people, I mean, I think it's good to promote in the states okay, because it will create pressure and build a movement for it to be national. But the fact is, if you have a single-payer healthcare system, right, you need flexibility. You need flexibility that a state does not have. Now, with this bill, there was no financing mechanism. There was no, in other words, half of and this is what, John from San Antonio used to call complaining about this all the time in terms of Vermont. Remember Vermont was going to go single payer under the Affordable Care Act? It got a waiver and was going to go single payer. And then there was not the political will within the state to raise taxes in the way that it is. There needs to be a lot more, it seems to me, education about the tax implications and to figure this out. Because if you go and you push that bill in California and they pass through a bill that's going to require $400 billion in new taxes, even though, okay, people individually will be saving on private health insurance or their employers will. That's not like, it's not like a one-to-one situation. You don't get a check and then actually turn around and hand it out, right? This is just like over the course of a period of time of transition. If it fails, if you take it further and it literally falls apart because there's no financing, there's no component of like, this is how we pay for it. Like they didn't even come up with the part where it says, okay, we're going to charge employees an extra 15% on their payroll tax and employers another 7% or another 15%, whatever it is. They didn't come up with any of the numbers, which doesn't mean that the numbers don't exist. It's just that the bill traveled further. In some respects, I think like there's a danger. You go and you pass that thing and you pass the get part, but you don't pass the give part. And the thing falls apart, then it dooms it, I think, in a national way.
And for,
politicians.
and for what it's worth, just two really quick points about it, too. When Jerry Brown, the only time he ever ran on single payer was when he ran for president in 1992. And he's actually made a similar point between the difference between being a state leader and a national leader on healthcare. And also, he supported implementing Obamacare. So,
but the issue is not even about Jerry Brown.
But he wants to make
speaking.
a comment. No, but I think that is what he's highlighting because he's saying that we're calling Mitch McConnell out for reversal, and we aren't calling Democrats out. And I'm saying it's a different thing.
I wasn't saying that. I'm just saying that happened. Just recently, that happened, and I just wanted to know what you guys think. But I just wanted to say that California. I mean, it is a big enough economy. Maybe there's some certain federal regulations that keep them from being free enough.
Without a doubt. Listen, but here's the point.
Economies who have
to pass that, right? To pass that bill, you need to go and negotiate with the federal government to expand your Medicaid payments and to expand your Medicare payments. And obviously that's not going to happen. That part doesn't bother me as much because if the thing stalls at that point because of the federal government, at least that creates more pressure. But and I don't know that is a sincere reason why. I guess it was the Speaker of the Assembly who basically killed the bill. I mean, I think that he claimed that look, this is not a real bill. It didn't come with any financing. The Senate has to give us a real bill. That may be the case.
Why wasn't there like a negotiation or reconciliation, some kind of process where they could have changed the bill? I mean, to kill it is.
Because I mean, I don't know how the California politics work. It's just the case that like if you're going to do something real instead of symbolic, you did need to include that part of the bill, right? It's like, you can't just say we're going to go to the moon.
I also think California you need to pass a referendum to raise taxes. They still have a very regressive, difficult, they have something going back to the late 70s on raising property and income taxes. So this will mean a tax increase. So basically people who are promoting it, what they should do is, according to Dane, is go and actually take it directly to voters. And that is what John from San Antonio says. Be clear about that trade-off. Have way better health care, but your taxes will go up. And I think that's what they were saying, that they couldn't even negotiate it because there isn't even the room to get the funding mechanism in. Maybe they didn't do enough to promote it, but there wasn't a way to make that actually become law.
I think the idea is that if you're going to do this, you need to have broad-based support and to have legitimate broad-based support, people need to know what's involved in it. And if they don't realize that their taxes are going to go up by that amount and understand the dynamic of the trade-off, then this policy could work out very poorly. I mean, and that's the problem. Is that like there needs to be
I would
more...
just think that I would just think that they'd be able to come to terms with that instead of, I mean, how did it come to that, go that far and then just fail?
Well, because people can vote for something.
Yeah.
If I say to you, we're going to the moon, do you vote going to the moon, yes or no? Well, yes. Do you know what's involved in that? We got to spend billions of dollars.
It's symbolic, like the Obamacare repeals that the Republicans kept putting on Obama's desk, basically. I mean, maybe not quite as cynical as that, but it's the same concept, right?
I don't think it. Well, I think maybe a little bit cynical. Listen, if you propose a massive policy, right, that doesn't have a funding mechanism, there's a little bit of cynicism there. There's a little bit of. Now, I think there's value in passing something that so that it's symbolically it's out there, but I also think there's a danger insofar as that it becomes a toxic thing to do for other politicians.
Right. One last thing that
gotta be
probably
quick because I gotta go.
Yep, quick. Universal basic income in Hawaii. They're looking at it. I don't know how far it's going to go, but I'm thinking at this point that it might be the same thing. It's just something people are doing for political purposes, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they actually have, or they did have a version of that in Alaska that was funded by oil. But then oil prices went down. All right, I'm going to take 8 IMs. Born Blue. No, please don't invite Tim Black back to a debate anytime soon. A little of that crap goes a long way. You may still enjoy Jimmy Reefer Cake, but his predictable arguments have grown tiresome. Joseph Ballin, check out my latest article on all the hypocrisy deconstructing the Sam versus Tim debate. I will not do that. Because why would I? I was there. Johnny Ganja Cookie. When is Josh from Chicago going to start calling right-wing Mandela Dad? I think he's been dropping hints, but he doesn't want to come out. New Human. Buying a Webby Award plaque. Probably better use of money than hiring Michael Tracy. Umar Shavsi. This whole trust fund baby thing is stupid, and Michael's done a sucky-ass job of explaining himself, so I'll do it. He's not claiming that if you're a trust fund baby, then he doesn't need to know anything else about you, and he will judge you to be a bad person. It's just that being a trust fund baby is an implicit handicap growing up with empathy. Now, some people might be able to overcome this handicap and grow up to be good people, but for those who clearly haven't, it's perfectly acceptable to use the term as a pejorative. Now, as to what went wrong with Matt, such that he's unable to know the difference between cynicism and skepticism when it comes to UFOs, I have no idea. Really cool. I'm on podcastawards.com and can't find nominations link. Where on the site is it exactly? It's launches tomorrow on July 1st. Sorry. Tried doing nominations. That didn't work already. Already following Mayday Mindy 9.
Oh, it's really funny to joke about what happened to Michael Tracy after Maxine Waters laid him out like that. It's disgusting.
Not all lower Manhattanites. Cliff is much cuter in person. He should use a screen capture of today as the photo when he's on the phone. That's probably a good idea. And the final IM of the day of the week. Folks, have a great July 4th. We're going to have a pre-record on Monday, and also some deep archive stuff for you guys, the members. And then we'll be back on Wednesday. I love Sarah Palin. There's still a part of me that believes my Trump is a super woke liberal theory. The latest piece of evidence is his attack on Morning Joe and low IQ Mika. Their admission highlights the problems with the media, most notably their willingness to give up their integrity and self-respect for access. Reported doing a good interview today means setting up the interviews with questions that help expand on their talking points. Folks, see you next week.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there.